My son-in-law had one hand on the back of my chair and the other on the carving knife when I said his name. Grant, he looked over his shoulder. Yeah, that's my seat. It was a simple sentence. I didn't sharpen it. I didn't smile either. Grant glanced at the oak chair as though he'd found it abandoned beside the road. I figured the guest of honor ought to sit here tonight. There are 7 other chairs. Across the table, my daughter stopped adjusting a water glass. Mara's eyes met mine, then moved quickly to her husband. That was when I noticed my blue cloth napkin had been relocated to the far end, beside the kitchen doorway. The carving knife was already at Grant's plate. She had set the table. "Dad," she said, low enough to suggest I was the one making a public scene, "it's one dinner. Be the bigger man." Nobody spoke. My sister Judith stood frozen near the breadbasket, holding a pair of salad tongs. My son Ben became deeply interested in the label on his beer. Grant gave a little shrug and lowered himself into the chair Mara had helped me refinish 20 years earlier. I took the open seat at the far end. The worst part wasn't that Grant took my place. It was how carefully my daughter had prepared me to lose it. "All right," I said, "let's eat before it gets cold." That released everybody. Judith sat down too fast and knocked her knee against the table. Ben twisted the cap off his beer, even though it was the kind you could just pull. Mara disappeared into the kitchen and returned with the horseradish sauce I had already put out. "Oh," she said when she saw the other dish. "Right." Grant picked up the carving knife. The roast had cost $48, not counting the fresh rosemary, the little red potatoes, and the bottle of wine Judith had already informed me was too dry to be friendly. I'd cooked it because Grant liked beef pink in the center, and because he'd been promoted to regional operations manager on Thursday. Mara called me from her car that afternoon. "Don't make a huge deal out of it," she'd said. "I wasn't planning a parade. You know what I mean. I'll cook dinner. That would be nice." Then, after a pause, she'd added, "Maybe make the roast," so I made the roast. Grant pressed the blade into it and sawed back and forth. The first slice came off thick on one end and nearly transparent on the other. Ben looked at me. I looked at my potatoes. "You've got to let the knife do the work," Judith said. Grant stopped. "I think I've carved meat before. I'm sure you've done all kinds of things before." "Jude," I said. "What?" I was encouraging him. Judith was 67 and had been encouraging people toward nervous breakdowns since the Carter administration. Grant resumed cutting. Juice ran across the board and pooled near his wrist. Mara leaned in. "Honey, maybe Dad could. I've got it." She sat back immediately. Of course, I could have taken over. Normally, I would have. I had spent 38 years keeping boilers alive, replacing busted locks, and showing young maintenance men how to use tools without making them feel stupid. There were ways to help a man, and ways to announce that he needed help. That night, I kept my hands in my lap. Grant passed the first plate to Mara, then served Judith, himself, and Ben. By the time the platter reached me, the center slices were gone. I took an end piece and spooned potatoes onto my plate. "To Grant," Mara said, raising her wine glass. Again. We had already toasted him in the living room, but everybody raised something. "To Grant," I said. "Thank you." He leaned back in my chair. It had a short creak I knew well, right where the left rear joint met the seat. It's still kinda sinking in. 23 people reporting to me. "God help 'em," Ben said. Grant laughed half a second after everybody else. Ben smiled at him. "Congratulations, man. Seriously." "No, I know. 23 is a lot, though. Different personalities, different levels of ambition." Grant cut into the roast and nodded at the color. "This came out good, Tom. Glad you like it. It's a little rarer than I usually do, but it's good." Judith drank her unfriendly wine. Mara asked Grant to tell us what his new position involved. He had already told me twice, but I listened. He would oversee 3 distribution sites. There were efficiency targets, driver retention issues, and a supervisor in Dayton who apparently mistook friendliness for weakness. "That's the first thing you learn in management," Grant said. "People test boundaries." Ben made another study of his beer label. "What?" Grant asked him. "Nothing. You made a face. I have a face. Sometimes it moves." Mara laughed too brightly. "Ben's tired." "Weren't you working some concert last night? Corporate awards thing." "What do you do with those?" Grant asked. "Mostly stop executives from dropping microphones." "That a full-time job?" "It was last night." "I just mean, are you still trying to get on with that production company?" Ben set down his fork. I'm not trying to get on with anybody. I freelance. Right. I'm saying long term. Tonight we're celebrating you, Grant, I said. Let's keep it there. My tone was calm. It was always calm. Mara relaxed, and that bothered me more than if she had stayed tense. Grant raised both hands. I'm just asking about his life. And I answered, Ben said. You answered with a joke. That's how I answer most things. Since birth, Judith added. The conversation moved on because I moved it. I asked Mara about the volunteer committee she'd joined at the Arts Center. Judith told us about a cashier at the grocery store who had offended her by calling her purchase of prune juice a good choice. Ben described a singer who had spent 20 minutes demanding a different microphone before realizing his was switched off. People laughed, plates emptied. The room warmed until the window over the sink fogged at the corners. From my new seat, I could see things I usually missed. Mara cut Grant's meat into smaller pieces after he pushed it aside. She did it without asking and without seeming to notice. Ben watched her, then looked away. Judith kept glancing at me whenever Grant leaned back in the oak chair. I also had the clearest view of the kitchen. The roasting pan sat on the stove. Every cabinet door was closed except the one below the sink, which hung open 2 inches because the latch needed adjusting. I had planned to fix it after dinner. I found myself wondering how long it would stay open if I didn't. More potatoes? Mara asked Grant. I'm good. You barely ate. They're a little heavy. I had used the same recipe he'd praised at Christmas. Mara turned to me. Dad, did you use cream? Half and half. Oh, okay. They're potatoes, Mara, Ben said. I was just asking. They're very brave potatoes, Judith said. They'll recover. I smiled despite myself. Grant reached for his beer and found it empty. He gave the bottle a little tilt, checking. Mara began to rise. I stood first. I'll get it. I can get it, Dad. I'm already up. That wasn't true. I had only started getting up after I saw her move, but it was the kind of harmless lie families use to keep their machinery quiet. I went to the refrigerator, brought Grant another beer, refilled the water pitcher, and carried the potato bowl to the counter. From behind me came the scrape of the carving knife on ceramic. Careful with that, I said. Grant looked toward the kitchen. With what? The knife. Don't cut on the platter. It'll roll the edge. I wasn't. I had heard him do it. So had everybody else. Okay, I said. He set the knife down. You don't have to monitor me. Mara closed her eyes for a moment. Ben shifted his chair back, ready to leave a fight before it became one. I'm not monitoring you, I said. I heard the knife. It's a knife, Tom. It is. And this is a chair. There it was. Judith put down her fork. Grant smiled, but there was no humor in it. I'm just saying, we don't need to make everything ceremonial. Grant, Mara said. What? I'm agreeing with you. Her face changed. Not much, but I saw it. She hadn't expected him to tell me that. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Did Mara tell you the chair was ceremonial? No. I'm using a word, then use another one. Oh, for heaven's sake, Judith muttered. Mara turned toward me. Dad, please! There were a dozen things I could have said. I could have told Grant that I'd pulled that chair out of a trash pile behind the Harrison Apartments in 1998. I could have told him Mara had spent 3 weekends sanding it with me after her mother moved out the first time. She'd been 16 and furious with both of us. She put so much pressure on the sanding block that she left shallow grooves in one arm. When we finished, she sat in the chair and asked whether we were still a family. I told her a family could change shape without disappearing. That chair had survived 2 moves, a flooded basement, my divorce, Ben's 5-year stretch of refusing Sunday dinner, and one disastrous Thanksgiving when Judith tried to deep fry a turkey in my driveway. But Grant was right about one thing. It was a chair, so I didn't give a speech. Desserts in the refrigerator, I said. Mara looked as if I'd raised my voice. Dinner ended in stages. Judith carried 2 plates into the kitchen, then spent 5 minutes wrapping 3 dinner rolls in a paper towel for reasons known only to her. Ben offered to help with dishes, but his offer sounded like a request to be excused from the room. Go home, I told him. You sure? I've washed plates before. His eyes flicked toward the dining room. Grant was showing Mara something on his phone, still sitting in my chair. Call me tomorrow, Ben said. I will. He hugged me, which he didn't always do, and left without saying goodbye to Grant. Judith waited by the front door in her coat. I can stay. No need. I wasn't asking if you needed it, I know. She studied my face. Her own face had never concealed a thought successfully. You're doing that thing. What thing? The reasonable thing. It makes people nervous. Good night, Jude. She kissed my cheek. Those potatoes were not heavy. After she left, I cleared the table while Mara packed leftovers. She made one container for herself and Grant, another for Ben, and a smaller one for Judith, who had already stolen rolls. Grant finally got out of the chair. He carried his beer bottle to the counter and set it beside the sink. Great dinner, Tom. Congratulations again. Thanks. And seriously, I wasn't trying to start anything. All right. He waited for more. When it didn't come, he nodded once and went to get his coat. Mara stayed behind, pressing a plastic lid down one corner at a time. Dad? I rinsed the carving knife under warm water. You know he didn't mean anything by it. The edge had two bright spots where it had struck the platter. Mara, there won't be dinner here next Sunday. Her hands stopped on the lid. What? I'm taking a week off. You don't take weeks off from Sunday dinner. I just did. She stared at my back. Are you punishing us over a seat? I dried the knife carefully and slid it into the wooden block. No, I said. I'm trying to understand why you knew it would hurt me, and decided that made me the safest person to hurt. Mara's mouth opened, but nothing came out. From the front hall, I heard Grant pulling his coat from the crowded brass hook. One of the hangers knocked against the wall. That's not what I did, she said. I turned around. She had both palms flat on the counter, the container of roast between them. At 36, Mara still looked like her mother when she was trying not to cry, which was inconvenient for everybody involved. What did you do? I tried to keep a stupid disagreement from ruining his dinner. By asking him to move? He'd already sat down. He hadn't. Her eyes hardened. So, what was I supposed to do? Tell my husband to get up in front of everybody? You could have told him before everybody came. I didn't know he was going to sit there. You moved my napkin. She looked at the floor. That small movement answered more than I wanted it to. Why? I asked. It was his promotion dinner. I cooked his promotion dinner, I know, and I appreciate that. The word appreciate sat between us like a gratuity left on a table. Grant came back into the kitchen wearing his coat. Everything okay? Mara straightened. Fine. He looked from her to me. Doesn't seem fine? Dad canceled dinner next week. I'm taking a week off. Because I sat in his chair? I turned off the faucet. No. Grant waited, chin slightly raised. He did that when he believed somebody was about to lie. Mara grabbed the leftovers. Can we just go? He didn't move. If this is about me, I'd rather he say it. This isn't the time, she said. It was the time when we were all at the table. Grant. What? I'm standing right here. So am I said. He looked at me. I could feel the old machinery trying to start. Mara wanted me to reassure him. Grant wanted me to either challenge him or clear him. Both of them expected me to make the next 5 minutes survivable. I'm tired, I said. Thank you for coming. Grant gave a short laugh through his nose. Okay, Tom. Dad, drive safely. Mara's face closed. She picked up the second container, walked past Grant, and opened the front door. He stayed another second. For what it's worth, he said. I really did think guest of honor got the head of the table. You were the guest of honor at my house 3 years ago when you finished your degree. That was different. How? He glanced toward the open door. Mara was waiting on the porch. I don't know, he said. It just was. Then he followed her out. I stood in the kitchen until their headlights moved across the front windows and disappeared. The house didn't become quiet all at once. The refrigerator clicked on. A pipe tapped behind the wall. Judith's wine glass had left a wet ring on the table, and somewhere outside, a neighbor dragged a trash bin down a driveway with the delicacy of a demolition crew. I loaded the dishwasher. There were 7 plates because I had eaten from the smaller one I usually used for bread. The 8th dinner plate was still in the cabinet. I had set 8 places out of habit even though there were only 5 of us. For years, there had always been a chance someone would bring somebody. Ben might arrive with a woman he hadn't mentioned. Judith might collect a lonely person from church and forget to warn me. Once, Mara brought a coworker whose wife had left him that morning, and we all spent dinner pretending not to notice him crying into his peas. I put the unused plate back. When the kitchen was clean, I returned to the dining room. My chair sat pushed away from the table at an angle. Grant had left a faint smear of roast juice on one arm. I wet a dish towel and wiped it off. The left joint creaked when I moved the chair. I turned it over and tightened the screw beneath the seat. It took less than a minute. That was the problem with knowing how to fix things. After a while, you started believing everything should take less than a minute. At 8:14 the next morning, Mara texted me. "We got home. Love you." She always sent that after Sunday dinner, usually before they reached the highway. The timestamp told me she had remembered when she woke up. I typed, "Love you too." 3 dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. "You didn't answer last night." I looked at the message. I had been home. She knew I had been home. "I didn't see it," I wrote. That was true. My phone had been charging in the bedroom. It was also easier than saying I had slept badly and gotten up twice to check a front door I knew was locked. Her answer came immediately. "Okay," Ben called 10 minutes later. "I'm not taking sides," he said. "Good morning. I'm serious. I'm not getting drafted." "Who's drafting you?" Mara sent me a paragraph. What did it say? I don't know. It had a lot of semicolons. People get dangerous with semicolons. I poured coffee into a mug. "She said you canceled next Sunday because Grant sat in your chair. I canceled because I don't want to cook. That's not why. You said you weren't taking sides. I'm not. I'm gathering intelligence." I carried the mug to the little table by the back window. The oak dining table was 12 feet away, and somehow felt like it belonged to another house. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That I had a job Sunday." "Do you?" "I might." "Ben?" I told her I wasn't discussing it. Then she asked if Grant had offended me last night. "Did he?" "He usually offends me. It's part of his sparkle." "What did he say?" A pause. "Nothing worth starting a war over." That wasn't my question. "He thinks I'm waiting to become a person." I rubbed my thumb along a chip in the coffee mug. "He shouldn't talk to you that way. He talks to everybody that way. He ranks things. Jobs, beer, neighborhoods. Those little sausages people put in slow cookers. What's wrong with the sausages? Nothing. That's what I'm saying." I smiled. Ben's voice softened. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "Yeah, I know. That's why I asked." Before I could answer, he said he had to load equipment for an afternoon job. We agreed to talk later. He hung up without asking me to restore dinner, which I appreciated and resented in equal measure. My week had more holes in it than I expected. Sunday dinner only occupied one evening, but its preparation had spread across several days. I usually checked the grocery advertisements on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I decided what I was cooking. Thursday was for anything that needed ordering, Friday for cleaning, Saturday for shopping, and the first round of chopping. Without a menu, the days failed to introduce themselves properly. On Tuesday, I opened the supermarket flyer and stared at a sale on chicken thighs before remembering I had nowhere to take them. I folded the paper and put it in recycling. Judith called while I was replacing the latch below the sink. "Your daughter called me," she said. "I assumed she would. She says you're withholding Sunday dinner as a form of emotional leverage." Those her words? Some of them. I improved the sentence. I closed the cabinet. The new latch caught neatly. "What did you tell her?" "I said you were 64 years old and could spend Sunday eating crackers in the bathtub if you wanted. That's supportive." I also told her the chair business was foolish. Also supportive. "It was foolish, Tom. Grant should have moved, Mara should have made him, and you should say what you mean before your silence turns into weather." I said what I meant. "You said you were taking a week off." "I am? And next week? I don't know." She sighed. "That's the weather." I walked into the dining room. Morning sun caught the shallow sanding grooves on the right arm of the oak chair. They were barely visible unless you knew where to look. "Do you remember when Mara and I refinished this chair? I remember you had stain under your fingernails at Mother's birthday. She asked me if we were still a family." Judith was quiet for a moment. She was having a rough year. We all were. "You told her yes. I meant it. Then maybe don't make her guess now." I'm not the one who changed the answer. "You don't know that she did. She set my place at the far end. And you're going to make that one decision carry 20 years? I looked at the chair. "No," I said. "I'm trying to figure out how long it's already been carrying." Judith exhaled slowly. She did not apologize or agree. That was one of the useful things about her. "All right," she said, "but eat something green this week." On Thursday evening, Mara called instead of texting. I was in the garage sorting a drawer full of screws I had been meaning to sort since the Clinton administration. "I thought I'd host Sunday," she said. "That's nice. For everybody." I understood. We can rotate for a while. That way it's not always on you. She presented it as if she had discovered an unfair burden I'd been too proud to mention. You don't have to do that. I want to. Does Grant? It's my house, too. The speed of her answer told me they had discussed that exact point. I set a box of wood screws beside the washers. What time? 6. If that works, it works. She was quiet. So you'll come? You invited me. I didn't know if you were boycotting. I said I wasn't cooking. I didn't say I was joining a monastery. A small laugh escaped her. It sounded like my daughter again. I'm making chicken, she said. Good. You don't have to bring anything. I can bring wine. Dad, you really don't, Mara. Fine. Bring wine. She started to hang up, then said, Grant picked up a pie from that bakery you like. That was thoughtful. He's trying. I put one bent screw in the trash. All right. And I'm trying. I know. No, you don't. There was too much under that sentence to answer safely, and safety was beginning to seem like our problem. I'll see you Sunday, I said. She hung up first. On Sunday afternoon, I reached automatically for the large wooden salad bowl on top of the refrigerator. My hand stopped before I touched it. Mara had told me not to bring anything but wine. I had agreed. Still, arriving at a family dinner with one bottle felt like showing up at a roof repair carrying a spoon. I left the bowl where it was. Grant opened their front door before I knocked. He wore a dark button-down shirt, with the sleeves folded exactly twice. Tom, come in. Congratulations again. Thanks. We shook hands. He held mine a little longer than necessary, as if demonstrating there was no hostility in his grip. The house smelled like rosemary, lemon cleaner, and something beginning to scorch. Mara came out of the kitchen, kissed my cheek, and took the wine. You came, she said. You invited me. I know, I just meant, never mind. On the dining table were 5 matching place settings, white napkins, and a new carving knife laid beside Grant's plate. My place was at the far end nearest the swinging kitchen door. I looked at the place setting, then at Mara. She followed my eyes. That's where you always sit here. It was true. Their table was narrower than mine, and pressed against a wall on one side. I had sat near the kitchen door for years because it made clearing dishes easier. I didn't say anything. You made a face. I have a face. Sometimes it moves. She almost smiled. Ben's line belonged to the family now. Grant took my coat and hung it in the front closet. Your spot has the most room. That's fine. We didn't assign seats or anything. His plate was at the head of the table, beside the carving knife. Mara's was to his right. Judith's purse would eventually occupy the chair to his left until somebody asked her to move it. Grant, Mara said, could you check the chicken? I checked it. The timer went off. It has to rest. It's still in the oven. He turned toward the kitchen. You told me to leave it in. I said, leave it for 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. It's been 12. They moved together through the swinging door. I heard the oven open, followed by Grant saying something I couldn't make out, and Mara saying, well, it's definitely done. The doorbell rang. Judith stood on the porch with a covered glass bowl in her hands. I was told not to bring anything, she said as she entered, so I brought salad. That's a reasonable interpretation. It has pears. Grant doesn't like fruit in salad. Then he can navigate around them. She handed me the bowl, took off her coat, and examined my face before she looked at the dining table. Oh, she said. What? Nothing. You made a face. I'm 70% face. There's no preventing it. She went into the kitchen without knocking on the swinging door and immediately asked what was burning. Ben arrived 10 minutes later in black jeans and a black collared shirt, carrying a small metal case. His hair was flattened on one side from wearing a headset. You came from work? I asked. I told you I might have one. What was it? Pharmaceutical sales conference. Anybody drop a microphone? Twice. Same guy. He looked toward the dining room. Are we having assigned seating now? No, Grant called from the kitchen. Ben looked at me. Excellent acoustics in this house. Mara came out with a dish towel over one shoulder. Her cheeks were pink from the oven. Hi, sorry, everything's a little behind. Ben kissed her cheek. Smells good. You're lying, but I appreciate it. I didn't say what it smelled like. She laughed. It was a real laugh this time, and for a moment the room loosened. Grant carried out the chicken on a wooden cutting board. It was a whole bird, brown to the color of an old penny, surrounded by collapsed lemon halves and rosemary branches. The skin over one wing had gone black. That looks beautiful, I said. He set it in front of his chair. It got away from us a little. Resting in the oven will do that, Judith said. Mara followed with a bowl of roasted carrots. Jude, I told you not to bring anything. I forgot. You called me this afternoon to ask whether I was bringing salad. I forgot that too. Grant reached for Judith's bowl. Fruit? Pears. With lettuce? There are no laws left. He set it near the far end of the table. We sat. Grant placed both hands on the edge of the cutting board and looked at the chicken. The new knife beside him had a broad blade with scalloped indentations. Nice knife, I said. It's German. Good balance? He lifted it and tested the weight. Really good. You should try one. I've got a knife. Yours is pretty old. It still cuts. His eyes met mine for a second. Most of the time. Mara reached for her water. Judith stabbed a pear. Grant began carving. He removed one leg cleanly, found the joint, and separated it without scraping the blade against the board. He had watched a video or practiced. Maybe both. That's a good cut, I said. He looked up, suspicious at first. Then his shoulders dropped a fraction. Thanks. The breast was dry, but the seasoning was good. Mara had made the carrots with honey and too much cumin. Judith's salad tasted like a fruit basket had fallen into a hedge. We ate all of it because that was what family dinners were supposed to survive. So, Judith said, how is regional domination? Grant smiled. Busy. I spent Friday at the Dayton site. How's the friendly supervisor? Ben asked. He resigned. Already? I made expectations clear. Mara looked at him. You said he was thinking about resigning before you took over. He was. I gave him the clarity to decide. Ben chewed slowly. Grant noticed. What? Nothing. Your face moved again. Occupational hazard. I'm telling you, the guy was a problem. 21 late departures in 1 quarter. Half his drivers thought schedules were suggestions. Sounds bad. It was. You can't run an operation if nobody accepts accountability. Mara stood. Anybody want more carrots? Everybody still had carrots. Sit down, honey, Grant said. Eat. I need to check the potatoes. They're fine. They've been warming for half an hour. She went into the kitchen anyway. Grant turned back to Ben. How did the pharmaceutical thing go? Loudly. Those corporate events pay well? They can. You work through an agency? Sometimes. So you're still piecing jobs together. Ben wiped his mouth with his napkin. I schedule them. They don't wander in off the street. I'm not criticizing. I've just never understood the model. You don't have to. I like knowing what people do. He keeps executives from dropping microphones, I said. Ben looked at me. That's apparently full time. Grant leaned back. His chair didn't creak. See, this is what happens, he said. I ask a normal question, and you two turn it into a comedy routine. I answered the question, Ben said. No, you dodged it. Why do you care how I file my taxes? I care because we're family. The kitchen door swung open. Mara backed through it with a casserole dish held between oven mitts. Hot, she announced. I stood automatically and moved a trivet under the dish before she set it down. Steam fogged her glasses. Thank you, she said. Grant stared at Ben. Ben stared at the potatoes. Judith passed me the salad. Have another pear. No, thank you. Wise. Mara sat and removed her glasses to clean them. What did I miss? Nothing, Ben and Grant said together. Great. For the next several minutes, we managed. Judith described a man at church who had proposed combining the finance and hospitality committees, which she considered evidence of moral collapse. Mara asked about the loose cabinet latch I'd replaced. Ben told us the keynote speaker at his event had spent 40 minutes insisting that change was inevitable while refusing to use a wireless headset. Grant laughed at that. Executives love change when other people do it, he said. Ben smiled. Exactly. There it was, a narrow, ordinary bridge. I watched both of them step onto it. Then Grant said, You ever think about moving into corporate production full-time? The bridge collapsed. Ben set down his fork. I do corporate production now. I mean, with a company. Benefits, management track, something sustainable. I have benefits. Through who? Whom? Judith said. Nobody acknowledged her. Ben's voice stayed level. Through my union. Grant nodded as if Ben had provided one piece of a larger report. Okay. And in 5 years? In 5 years, I'll be 40. You know what I'm asking? I know exactly what you're asking. I just don't know why you keep asking it. Mara looked at me. The look was quick, almost involuntary. Calm this down. Change the subject. Make Ben laugh. Tell Grant he means well. Do the thing you do. I reached for my water and drank. Grant saw her look too. Why are you looking at your dad? I'm not. You are. Every time I say something anybody doesn't like, everybody checks with Tom. That is not true. It happened at his house, and now it's happening here. Ben pushed his chair back an inch. This has nothing to do with Dad. It always has something to do with Dad. Grant, Mara said. What? He sits there deciding whether everybody's behaving. I looked at him. I'm eating chicken. You know what I mean. I don't think I do. He laid his napkin beside his plate. You don't have to say anything. That's the whole trick. You get quiet, and suddenly I'm the loud one. You are the loud one, Judith said. Mara closed her eyes. Please don't. Grant ignored her. I'm trying to talk to Ben about his future, and everybody acts like I insulted him. You did insult me, Ben said. How? You talk about my life like it's an entry-level position I forgot to leave. That's not an insult. That's concern. No, concern starts with a question you're willing to hear the answer to. Grant looked at me again. Is that your line? Ben stood. His napkin slid from his lap to the floor. I'm going home. Mara rose too. Ben, don't. He didn't mean, don't tell me what he meant. We're having dinner. We were. Grant stayed seated. Walking out is childish. Ben picked up the small metal case he'd left by the wall. Then, you should be proud of me for choosing a growth opportunity. Ben, I said. He stopped at the doorway but didn't turn around. I had many useful sentences available. I could tell him to sit down for Mara's sake. I could tell Grant to apologize. I could make a joke about the pie and buy everybody 10 minutes to forget the shape of what had happened. Instead, I asked, You okay to drive? Yeah. Call when you get home. Mara stared at me. That's it? Ben looked back then, not at her. At me. Thanks for dinner, he said. The front door closed behind him. Grant pushed his plate away. Unbelievable. Judith leaned down, retrieved Ben's napkin, and folded it into a precise square. Mara's face had gone pale beneath the flush from the kitchen. You could have stopped him. Ben is 33. You know what I mean. I do. No, apparently you don't. You sat there and let this happen. I sat where you put me. The moment the words left my mouth, I wished I had chosen different ones. They were true, but truth can still be used cheaply. Mara flinched. Grant stood. So, this was the plan. There was no plan. You come here, judge everything, and the second Ben makes a scene, you follow him out, so Mara knows whose side you're on. I haven't followed anybody, not yet. I looked at the burned wing on my plate, at Mara's untouched potatoes, at the German knife beside Grant's hand. Then I placed my napkin on the table. Thank you for dinner, I said. Mara shook her head. If you walk out too, don't pretend this is about needing a break. It isn't. Then what is it about? I picked up my coat from the closet. It's about not asking one person to stay uncomfortable so everybody else can call the evening a success. Behind me, Judith's chair scraped back. I turned. You don't have to leave. I know, she said, reaching for her purse. That's why it counts. Mara looked at Judith as if she had been slapped. You're leaving too? I've eaten, Judith said. That isn't an answer. It's the answer I have. Grant planted his hands on the table. Nobody asked you to choose sides, Judith. No, you just arranged the furniture. Jude, I said. She gave me a look that could have removed paint. What? I'm supposed to pretend this is normal? You don't have to add anything. Fine. She pulled on her coat. The chicken was moist. It was the meanest thing she said all night. Mara stood between us and the front door, still holding one oven mitt. I spent all day cooking because Dad decided he was done with Sunday dinner. Grant bought the pie. We cleaned the whole house. We tried. I know you did, I said. And the first uncomfortable conversation, everybody walks out. It wasn't a conversation, Judith said. It was an inspection. I wasn't talking to you, Mara snapped. No, you weren't. I opened the door before Judith could find another piece of furniture to throw. Cold air entered the front hall. Mara crossed her arms, oven mitt tucked beneath one elbow. Go, she said. Mara, no, Dad, you've made your point. I don't think I have. That's the problem. Nobody knows what you're doing, so everybody has to guess. For 1 second, her voice sounded less angry than scared. I nearly took off my coat. Then Grant said, "He knows exactly what he's doing." Mara's face settled again. I stepped onto the porch. Judith followed, and the door shut behind us with controlled force. Her car was parked across the street beneath a maple that had dropped wet leaves over the windshield. We stood at the curb while she searched her purse for keys she had been holding in her left hand. "I didn't ask you to leave," I said. "I know. You didn't have to. I know that too. You made it look like we were staging a walkout." She pointed the keys at me. "You were staging a walkout. I was leaving dinner, in a coat. Through the front door. That's generally how walkouts are staged." I looked back at the house. Through the dining room window, Grant was collecting plates. Mara stood perfectly still beside the table. "This isn't funny," I said. "I'm not being funny. You said the chicken was moist. That was self-defense." I rubbed my hands together against the cold. She tried. "Yes, she worked all day. Yes, and we left. Also yes." I looked at Judith. "You're not helping. I am not a help desk." She unlocked her car, then paused. "You were right not to make Ben stay. You were right to leave if you wanted to leave. But that line about sitting where she put you?" I said nothing. "You saved that one," Judith said. "Maybe you didn't know you were saving it, but you were. Don't get so pleased with being the calm one that you forget you can still cut people." "I'm not pleased." "Good. You looked pleased for half a second." "I did not." "You did to me." She opened the driver's door. "Are you going to call Mara?" I asked. "No, she'll call you. I'll tell her I'm Switzerland. You invaded with salad. Pears aren't an invasion." She got in and closed the door. My phone rang before I reached the end of Mara's street. Ben's name lit the dashboard. I let it ring through the car speakers, then called him back at a red light. "You home?" I asked. "Just pulled in." "You all right?" "I'm annoyed." "That isn't fatal. Depends how long Grant plans to live." "Ben." "I'm kidding. Are you?" "Mostly." The light changed. I turned onto the main road. "Judith and I left," I said. "I figured." "Mara's upset." I also figured. "You put her in a difficult position." He was quiet long enough that I checked the screen to see if the call had dropped. "I put her in a difficult position?" "You could have told Grant you didn't want to discuss work." "I did. You could have been clearer." I said I didn't know why he kept asking. That isn't the same as saying, "Stop." So, I needed the exact right sentence before I earned the right to leave. I didn't say that. "You started the call by asking if I was okay, and 30 seconds later, we're working on what I did wrong. I'm trying to understand." "No." "You understand Grant. You're trying to improve me." That hit cleanly. I drove another block before answering. "Maybe." "You do it every time." I told him he shouldn't talk to you that way. To me. On the phone, when he wasn't there. What was I supposed to do, start a fist fight over the potatoes? You could have told him to stop. "You're 33, Ben. And he's 39. Why does being an adult mean I have to defend myself, but not that he has to behave?" I tightened my hand on the steering wheel. "I don't want you and your sister turning this into teams." "It was teams before tonight, Dad. You just kept changing the jerseys so nobody could tell. Call me tomorrow." He laughed once without humor. "There it is." "What? Good night." The call ended. At home, I hung my coat over the chair by the front door instead of putting it away. I turned on the kitchen light and found the counters exactly as I had left them. The wooden salad bowl still sat on top of the refrigerator. My phone buzzed. Mara had sent one sentence. "I hope you're happy." I read it 3 times. There was no answer that wouldn't make it worse, including silence, so I chose silence. I wasn't happy. I ate 2 slices of toast, standing over the sink, and went to bed before 10. At 11:30, I was still awake, replaying the dinner and editing myself into a better man. In one version, I stopped Grant after his first question to Ben. In another, I followed Ben outside, convinced him to return, then went back in and said something firm but generous enough to enlighten Grant without embarrassing Mara. Judith stayed for pie. Everybody apologized in a sensible order. I was excellent in every version that happened too late. Mara called Tuesday afternoon while I was in the hardware store, holding 2 nearly identical packages of cabinet bumpers. "Are you busy?" she asked. "I can talk." "Jude says she won't be put in the middle." "That sounds like Jude." "So you talk to her." She gave me a ride to my car with her eyes. Mara didn't laugh. I put both packages in my basket. Grant thinks Ben owes him an apology. What does Grant think he's owed an apology for? Walking out. Then Grant should call Ben. You know how that would go. No, I don't. Yes, you do. A store employee pushing a cart of paint cans slowed near me, decided I appeared competent, and kept going. What do you want me to do? I asked. Talk to Ben about apologizing, about not making everything worse. Did you ask Grant to apologize? For caring about Ben's future? For talking over his answer? She sighed hard into the phone. Dad, Grant was clumsy. I know that. But Ben showed up ready to be offended. Why would he do that? Because you made Sunday into a referendum on my husband. I didn't say one word to Ben about the chair. You didn't have to. Everybody saw it, then maybe everybody understood it without my help. This is what I mean. You say something like that, then act like you aren't taking a position. I moved my cart out of the aisle. You're right, I said. She stopped. I took a position when Ben left. I thought Grant was treating him badly, and I didn't ask Ben to tolerate it, so you punished me. No, it was my dinner, my house. I was the one who spent all day trying to hold it together, and you let it fall apart because you needed to prove that you weren't going to rescue me. There was enough truth in that to make me sit on a stack of bagged water softener salt. I didn't go there intending that. But you did it. Yes. Her breathing changed. I said, I'm sorry for telling you I sat where you put me. That was meant to hurt. Thank you. I'm not sorry I left. I didn't expect you to be. Why did you put me at the end again? That is where you always sit. You said that. Because it's true. So, was it accidental? A long silence. Grant wanted the head, she said. I thought if he had it, he wouldn't feel like he was being watched in his own house. Did he say he felt watched? He didn't have to. But I'm supposed to say everything directly. Oh, don't do that. I'm asking. You're building a case. No, Mara. I'm trying to understand the rules. She spoke slowly. There aren't rules. Then why do I keep breaking them? She hung up. I sat on the salt until an employee asked whether I needed assistance. I told him I was deciding between cabinet bumpers. He looked at the two packages in my basket. They're the same, he said. One package held 24, the other held 25. No, I said. They're not. Ben texted Wednesday and asked if I still had my rivet gun. I told him I did. An hour later, I was at the warehouse where he stored his audio equipment, standing beneath fluorescent lights beside a black road case the size of a washing machine. One latch had torn away from the plywood, leaving 2 ragged holes. Ben handed me coffee without asking how I took it. He knew. Can it be fixed? He asked. Everything can be fixed badly. Can it be fixed well? Probably. We drilled out the old rivets and cut a small aluminum backing plate. Ben measured twice without being told. He handled the file better than I expected and caught me watching him. What? Nothing. My face move? You know how to do this. I know how to do lots of things. I know. He set the file down. Do you? I fitted the new latch over the plate. When did you learn metalwork? Touring with the dance company. Cases break. You fix them or carry loose cables across 3 states. You never told me that. You never asked. I squeezed the rivet gun. The first rivet snapped into place with a sharp pop. Ben braced the case while I set the second. I shouldn't have told you that you put Mara in a difficult position, I said. You were right. I did. That doesn't mean you should have stayed. He watched me align the 3rd rivet. You always say things like that afterward? Like what? That Grant was wrong, but I could have handled it better. Mara was inconsiderate, but I know how she gets. They shouldn't have changed my birthday dinner, but the reservation was hard to get. You make both sides sound equal, then ask me to be the side that moves. I didn't realize I was doing that. You did it before Grant. The rivet gun felt heavier. Ben ran his thumb along the new metal plate. When Mara wanted something and I objected, you'd tell me she was under pressure. When I wanted something, you'd tell me not to keep score. I was trying to keep you too close. You were trying to keep her from getting upset. I set the tool down. He looked at me then, not angry anymore. That was worse. Every time you told me to be the bigger person, he said, what you meant was that Mara got to be bigger. That's not what I meant. Ben nodded. I know. The warehouse heater came on with a metallic bang. Somewhere beyond the shelving, a forklift beeped in reverse. I wasn't saying Mara mattered more. You didn't have to say it. I picked up the rivet gun, then put it down again. Holding a tool had started to feel like hiding behind furniture. When did I do that about your birthday? He gave me a tired look. Which time? Pick one. My 30th. We were supposed to go to Murphy's. Mara got invited to Grant's boss's retirement dinner, so you moved mine to Friday without asking me. I thought Friday worked. I had a show. You said you might be able to get out of it. I said I might be able to find someone to cover the last hour. You told everybody Friday. I remembered the restaurant. I remembered Mara arriving late with Grant and bringing a cake from a grocery store because the bakery had closed. I remembered Ben opening gifts while checking his phone, then leaving before coffee. What I did not remember was asking him whether he wanted any of that. You told me it was fine, I said. You wanted it to be fine. That isn't the same thing. No. I ran a finger over the ragged holes where the old latch had been. I'm sorry I moved your birthday, I said. I'm sorry I treated your work like it was easier to move than Mara's plans. Ben leaned against the case. His expression didn't change. I'm sorry, I told you Grant's questions came from concern when I knew they didn't feel like concern to you. And I'm sorry I made you explain leaving his house like you were the one who had created the situation. His mouth tightened, then relaxed. Okay, he said. It wasn't forgiveness with music behind it. It was a place to put the next rivet. I positioned the gun and squeezed. The metal stem snapped off clean. Ben tested the latch twice. That'll hold, he said. It should. You want to see what's inside? You've been guarding it like plutonium. He opened the case. Foam-lined compartments held a compact mixing console, coiled cables, wireless receivers, and 6 microphones packed in fitted sleeves. Everything had a label. Each cable was wrapped evenly and secured with a colored tie. This is what I took to the pharmaceutical job, he said. I lifted one of the microphones. Expensive? $800. I put it back more carefully. The board is $12,000. I moved my coffee farther away. Ben smiled. You thought I kept extension cords in here. I didn't know what you kept. That's becoming a theme. He showed me how the mixing console worked. I understood maybe half of it. He could isolate a frequency problem by ear, route sound to 3 rooms, and explain why a signal vanished without touching a manual. His hands moved with the same confidence mine had around a boiler room. When did you get good at this? I asked. I've been doing it 14 years. That doesn't answer the question. It kinda does. He shut the case and rolled it toward the loading area. At the door, I said, Did you really stop coming to Sunday dinner because of Grant? Ben kept both hands on the case handle. Not just Grant. You told me it was your schedule. It was easier. For 5 years? I came sometimes, Christmas and birthdays. And the Sunday after you had pneumonia. I had bronchitis. You called it walking pneumonia until the doctor disagreed. I waited. Ben looked across the warehouse. The last regular dinner I came to, Grant spent 20 minutes explaining that freelance work was a failure to commit. Mara told me he was trying to help. You told me not to be so defensive. I don't remember that. I do. You could have told me why you stopped coming. I did. You explained him again. There was no useful answer to that. Ben pushed the case through the doorway, then glanced back. I'm not asking you to hate Grant. I don't hate him. I know. I'm asking you to stop making me admire his intentions while he's stepping on my foot. He loaded the case into his van. Before he shut the rear doors, he asked if I wanted to get breakfast sometime. Breakfast? You know, the meal before lunch. I'm familiar with it. Friday? I can do Friday, 7:30. That's almost lunch for you. He closed the doors. Don't ruin it. On Friday, we met at a diner near the interstate where the coffee tasted faintly of cardboard, and the waitress called everyone Captain. Ben ate eggs with hot sauce. I ordered oatmeal and spent half the meal looking at his bacon. You want one? He asked. No. You've been supervising it. I'm happy with my oatmeal. No one has ever been happy with oatmeal. He slid 2 strips onto my plate. We talked about his work. I asked questions and tried not to improve the answers. He was saving for a larger console. Touring paid better, but he was tired of hotels and had enough local clients to stay close to home. He liked being independent. He worried about the months when work thinned out. Both things could be true, which should not have surprised me as much as it did. My phone buzzed while he was telling me about a convention center with an electrical hum nobody could locate. Mara had started a group message with me, Ben, and Judith. Since Sunday dinner seems to be causing more harm than good, I think we should pause for a while. Judith replied first. All right. Then, 30 seconds later, I still have your glass salad bowl, Mara answered. Keep it. Ben's phone buzzed on the table. He read the message but didn't type. You going to answer? I asked. No. She'll think you're angry. I am angry. You can be angry and answer. He looked at me over his coffee. I held up a hand. Never mind. I typed, I understand. Mara didn't respond. The message sat on my screen all day. It followed me to the bank, the dry cleaner, and the hardware store, where I bought cabinet bumpers I no longer needed because the package of 25 had already been enough. At home, the silence had changed. Before, Sunday dinner had been canceled for 1 week. Now there was no next dinner waiting behind it. The oak table looked larger without that expectation. I opened the refrigerator and found a jar of mustard, half a carton of eggs, 3 beers Grant liked, and a bunch of celery I had bought for a soup I was no longer making. I ate cheese over the sink. Saturday morning, Cal Washington called. Cal had been an electrician in the same school district where I managed buildings. He was 6 years younger than me, 4 inches taller, and convinced every conversation benefited from being shouted. You busy? I'm holding the phone away from my ear. Repair workshop. Community center. I told you about it. You've told me about it 20 times. 21. We're short. What are you repairing? Whatever people drag in. Lamps, fans, chairs, bad decisions. I looked at the clock. Normally, I would have been at the supermarket by then, deciding whether Judith would complain less about green beans or broccoli. What time? 10. It's 9:35. Then don't take a bath. The repair workshop occupied a meeting room behind the public library. Folding tables had been arranged in a square and covered with canvas drop cloths. Volunteers wore handwritten name tags. Cal said Cal, electrical, as though his volume had not already established jurisdiction. Mine said Tom, general. That makes me sound like I've lost a war, I told him. You want cabinets and boilers? No? Then be general. People had brought in a floor lamp, 2 wooden stools, a toaster that tripped breakers, a box fan with 1 blade, and a small dresser whose bottom drawer refused to close. The idea was not to repair things for people, but to repair things with them, which Cal explained after I had already taken the back off the dresser. The dresser belonged to a woman named Noreen Alvarez. She was about my age, with silver hair cut short and reading glasses hanging from a red cord. I wanted to see how you open that, she said. 4 screws. I can count them. I wanted to see which 4. I looked at the screws lined up beside my hand. Sorry, you people do that. What people? Men with their own screwdrivers. She wasn't angry. She pulled over a chair and sat close enough to watch. I showed her how the drawer slides worked. One had bent inward, probably from being forced when something caught behind the drawer. I started to reach for my pliers, stopped, and offered them to her. You want to straighten it? That depends. Are you going to hover? Probably. At least you're honest. She bent the slide too far. I did not take the pliers away. We adjusted it back together, reinstalled the drawer, and watched it close. Noreen smiled at the dresser, not at me. There. There was pleasure in the word that I would have stolen from her if Cal hadn't explained the rules. I spent 4 hours helping people do work I could have finished in 2. It was one of the better Saturdays I'd had in months. Before I left, Cal wrote the dates of the next 3 workshops on the back of my name tag. You coming? I'll check. With who? My calendar. Your calendar's not your parole officer. I put the card in my wallet. Mara called that evening. Her voice was formal. Grant and I bought shelving for the dining room. That'll look nice. It's the floating kind. Make sure you hit studs. That's why I'm calling. I waited. Grant invited some people from work next Saturday, she said. Could you come by Thursday and help him put it up? Thursday was the next workshop. Cal had asked me to look at a broken table saw someone planned to bring. I can't Thursday. Oh, I could look at it Tuesday. Grant has a late meeting. Tuesday. Wednesday, we have dinner with his parents. Friday morning, we both work, Dad. I leaned against my kitchen counter. Then it may have to wait. Her voice cooled. You're busy all of a sudden. I have plans Thursday. What plans? A repair workshop. She laughed once. You won't help your own daughter repair something because you're helping strangers repair things. You asked me to help Grant. I offered Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Times you know won't work. I didn't know. You always know. The words came out sharper than the rest. Beneath them was something familiar. The certainty that I would find a way because I always had. I'm not available Thursday, I said. So this is the punishment now. You're withholding help. No, I'm unavailable one evening. You've never been unavailable. That doesn't mean I promise not to be. She went quiet. I could hear a television in the background and Grant opening or closing a cabinet. "Fine," she said. "We'll figure it out." "I'm sure you will." She hung up. I stood alone in my kitchen, listening to the dial tone that no longer existed, and understood why saying no felt so much like I had broken something. Nothing was broken. That was what made the feeling so hard to argue with. The shelves would be installed, or they wouldn't. Mara and Grant would have people over. The world would continue without my level, my drill, or my opinion about wall anchors. I repeated that to myself Thursday while driving to the community center. It didn't improve my mood. The broken table saw belonged to a man named Pete Donnelly, who had transported it in the back of a pickup and brought along every accessory except the manual. He was 58, recently retired from insurance, and had bought the saw because he planned to make furniture. "What kind?" I asked. "Table's a start. How many tables have you made? This will be the first." Cal stood behind him and mouthed, "Bad decisions." The saw didn't start. Pete had already replaced the switch, which meant there were 4 loose wires behind the front panel and no record of where they had been connected. "You take a picture before you pulled the old switch?" I asked. Pete looked offended. "I remember where they went." "Then why are we looking at 4 loose wires?" "I remember most of it." Cal slapped a wiring diagram onto the workbench. "Nobody plugs in anything until I say." "You always talk like the building's on fire?" Pete asked. "Helps prevent fires?" Noreen was there too. Her name tag said, "Noreen, not electrical." "I made it myself," she told me. I guessed. "My dresser still closes." "Glad to hear it." "You look grumpy." "I'm concentrating." "On a saw you haven't touched yet?" Pete glanced between us. "You two married?" "No," we said together. Cal looked disappointed. We spent the next hour tracing the circuit. The motor was fine. The replacement switch was wrong for the model, and Pete had connected one lead to a terminal that only looked useful. I could have rewired a temporary solution. Cal could have done it faster. Instead, we explained why it would be unsafe and helped Pete find the correct part number. "So, we're not fixing it?" he asked. "Not tonight," Cal said. "I thought this was a repair workshop." "It's also a Don't Electrocute Pete workshop." Pete grumbled, but he wrote down the part number. At the next table, Noreen was helping a woman repair a loose leg on a small end table. She had applied enough wood glue to float it across a lake. "Less," I said. She looked at me. "Did I request a general?" "The glue will squeeze out." "Then hand me a rag, General." I found a damp cloth. By 8, the table leg was secure, the saw was still safely useless, and an oscillating fan had stopped sounding like a helicopter. Cal ordered sandwiches from a place nearby, and we ate at the work tables. My phone stayed in my pocket. At 8:23, it buzzed anyway. Grant had left a voicemail. "Hey, Tom, we found one stud, but the second bracket lands between them. The directions say drywall anchors are included. They look kinda cheap. Call me if you get this." I listened twice. "You gonna call whoever that is?" Noreen asked. "My son-in-law? The chair one?" I had told her only that I was having trouble with my daughter and her husband. Apparently, I had also mentioned the chair. I didn't call him that. "You described a son-in-law and a chair." I organized the data. Cal was arguing with Pete about mayonnaise. Nobody else was listening. "He's putting up shelves," I said. "And?" He asked for help. So help. I offered to go Tuesday. "Did he ask you to go Tuesday?" "He wasn't available." "Then don't go Tuesday." That was the point. Noreen peeled the crust from half her sandwich. "You have a lot of points. You barely know me. I know you took my dresser apart without asking, and spent 10 minutes teaching a retired insurance man not to put his hand inside a table saw. You prefer useful to simple. What does that mean?" "I don't know yet." I stepped into the hallway and called Grant. He answered with a drill running in the background. "Hold on." The drill stopped. "Hey, I got your message. Mara said you had plans. I'm at the workshop, right? What kind of wall is it?" "Drywall, 1/2 inch, I think." "How much weight are you putting on the shelves? Glasses, some framed pictures, maybe bottles?" "How many bottles? It's not a liquor store, Tom." "Then don't use the plastic anchors in the package. Get 1/4 inch toggle bolts. Put one bracket into the stud and toggle the other." Silence. "You don't need both brackets on studs?" he asked. "Not for that weight." "The instructions make it sound like you do." "The instructions are written by lawyers who don't know your wall." He laughed before he could stop himself. "What size hole?" he asked. I told him. Then I asked whether he had checked for wires or plumbing. "It's a dining room wall. Wires still enjoy dining rooms. I have a stud finder with an AC setting. Use it. Okay. I nearly asked him to send me a picture. I nearly told him I could stop by on my way home. Instead, I said, "Call if something doesn't look right. Thanks." He hung up. When I returned to the room, Noreen slid the other half of her sandwich toward me. "I don't want that." "You were staring at it." I was thinking. "You do that at food? People keep giving me things I didn't ask for." She took the sandwich back. Good boundary. Grant sent me a photo at 10:15. 2 walnut-colored shelves floated straight and level above their dining room sideboard. A bottle, 3 glasses, and a framed picture had already been arranged on the lower shelf. "Still attached," he wrote. I typed, "Looks good." He answered with a thumbs up. Mara sent nothing. Saturday evening, I thought about their dinner party more than I wanted to admit. At 6, I imagined them lighting candles. At 7, I wondered whether the chicken was dry. At 8, I pictured Grant's co-workers standing beneath the shelves with drinks in their hands, unaware of the toggle bolts holding everything over their heads. I did not call. At 9:30, Grant sent another message. Shelves survived. Underneath them, he attached a photo of a crowded dining room. I could see only the backs and sides of unfamiliar adults, Mara near the kitchen door holding a wine bottle, and Judith's pear salad bowl on the table. I zoomed in before I remembered that Judith still had the bowl. The one in the picture was just similar. "Glad it went well," I wrote. He did not answer, but the exchange felt less like a victory than I had expected. They had managed without me. Nobody had been injured by a floating shelf. The dinner appeared successful. I was relieved. I was also ashamed of how relieved I had expected not to be. Sunday afternoon, Judith arrived carrying her glass salad bowl. "You said Mara told you to keep it," I said. "I don't want it. You've owned it for 10 years. I don't want the association." With pears, with abandonment. She set it on my kitchen counter and removed her coat. "Coffee?" I asked. "Is it fresh?" "No." "Then yes." She sat at the little table by the back window while I poured 2 mugs. I added milk to hers without asking. She watched me do it. "Mara thinks you like your new repair friends more than your family," she said. "I've been there twice." That wasn't a denial. "They don't ask me to cook. You like cooking. I like choosing to cook. Fine." I placed her coffee in front of her. "How is Mara?" I asked. Angry. I knew that. Sad. I knew that too. "Did you?" I sat across from her. Judith wrapped both hands around the mug. "She thinks you're replacing Sunday dinner with broken lamps. She thinks you waited your whole life to stop needing her. That doesn't even make sense. It does to her." I looked out the window. The yard needed raking. Wet leaves had collected against the back fence, and the old metal bird feeder leaned slightly to one side. "I don't want to replace her." "Then tell her." She doesn't answer. She answered when you accused her of assigning your seat. That wasn't exactly productive. "No." "Has she told you why she did it?" "She said Grant wanted the head of the table. At her house. At both houses, apparently." Judith sipped the stale coffee and made a face. "Why?" I asked. "You should ask Grant. He'd say it was a chair." "Maybe." "Do you know something? I know Mara has spent years trying to convince Grant you approve of him. I've never said I didn't. You've never said you did. I cooked him a roast. You also cooked one for the furnace repairman when he came during a snowstorm. He was here 9 hours. My point survives." I lean back. "Grant doesn't need my approval. Everybody says that when they don't want to give it. I welcomed him into this family. You were courteous. You made room in the driveway. You remembered his beer. You did not let him help you rebuild the deck, even after he offered 3 times. He'd never built a deck. Neither had Ben. I taught Ben. Yes." The coffee had gone cold enough to taste metallic. "Did Mara send you here?" I asked. "No. Mara currently believes I betrayed her over chicken. You left because you wanted to. That explanation has not impressed her. What do you think I should do?" Judith considered me. "I think you should decide whether you want a different relationship, or just want everybody to admit you were right." "I don't need everybody to admit I was right. You'd enjoy it. That isn't the same thing." She smiled faintly. "No, it isn't." After she left, I carried the salad bowl to the cabinet. It didn't fit where I put it. I rearranged 3 other bowls, tried again, then gave up, and left it on the counter. The doorbell rang at 6. I expected Judith to be back for the bowl. Grant stood on the porch with his hands in the pockets of a gray jacket. He was alone. "Mara didn't send me," he said. "I didn't ask. I know you didn't. I wanted that clear." I stepped aside. He entered, wiped his shoes carefully on the mat, and looked toward the dining room. His eyes stopped on the oak chair. "You want a beer?" I asked. "No." "Maybe." "Yeah." I took one of the 3 bottles from the refrigerator and handed it to him. He twisted off the cap but didn't drink. We stood in the kitchen. "Shelves look good," I said. "They're level, I saw. I used the toggle bolts, I assumed." He turned the bottle between his palms. Then he said, "I knew the chair mattered. I waited. Mara told me," he said. "A long time before that dinner." "How long?" Grant looked at the bottle. "A few years. How did it come up?" "She was telling me about when her mom left the first time. How you two worked on the chair together. How you promised the family would still have a place. And you remembered that when you sat in it." "Yes." The answer came without defense. That made it harder to dismiss. "Why? I told you. It was my promotion dinner. You also told me you didn't know the chair mattered." I lied. The refrigerator hummed behind me. Grant took a drink. "I told myself it wasn't really a lie because Mara said you wouldn't care. She knew I would. I think she knew you'd care. She didn't think you'd do anything." He looked toward the dining room again. "Those are different," he said. I picked up the salad bowl and moved it from the counter to the stove. There was no reason to move it. I just wanted my hands occupied. "Did she tell you to sit there?" "No." "Did she offer you the chair?" Grant rubbed his thumb over the edge of the bottle label. "Not exactly." "What does that mean?" "It means I said something about always feeling like a guest in this house. She said the dinner was for me, and I should sit wherever I wanted. Then she moved your place setting, my napkin, and the knife. I had known that. Seeing them together had told me. Hearing him list the objects made the decision feel newly deliberate. You saw her do it?" "Yes. And neither of you thought to ask me. If we asked, it wouldn't mean anything." I stared at him. He winced. That sounded bad. It sounded accurate. He set the bottle down. "I wanted you to give it up." "Why?" "Because you never give anything up. I gave you my chair. After you made it clear you didn't want to. You wanted me to enjoy it?" "No, I wanted—" He stopped and pressed both hands against the counter. "I wanted something in this family to happen because I wanted it, even if you didn't. That happens all the time. Name one thing. Mara married you." His eyes lifted to mine. "That was cheap," I said. "Yeah, but it's true. She chose me. The rest of you accepted the choice. That is generally how marriage works." "No, Tom. That is how you work. You accept. You accommodate. You remember what beer I drink. You make the roast exactly the way I like it. But you never need anything from me, and you never trust me with anything that matters. I trusted you with Mara. She isn't a toolbox you handed over. I didn't mean it that way. Then use another word. He had been waiting to give that back to me." I folded my arms. "You came here to confess or argue?" "Both, probably." "Good. I'd hate for you to miss a management opportunity." He almost smiled, then thought better of it. "You think I'm full of myself," he said. "Sometimes." "You think I talk too much?" "Sometimes." "You think I look down on Ben?" "You do." "I worry about him." "No, you measure him." "There's a difference. He's 33 and still loading gear into a van at midnight. He owns most of that gear. Did you know his mixing board costs $12,000? Grant's eyebrows moved. "No, neither did I. That doesn't make his work stable. It doesn't make it unstable. He told you I apologized?" "For what?" Grant looked down. "Nothing yet." "Then no. I'm trying to be honest. You came to my house and admitted you lied to my face about something you knew mattered. Honesty has a low bar tonight. I know." The anger finally showed in his face, but he didn't raise his voice. "You want me to say I'm sorry?" "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have sat there after you asked me to move. I shouldn't have pretended I didn't know what the chair meant. I wanted to win, and when Mara backed me up, I liked that you lost." The sentence struck the room and stayed there. Grant breathed out. "I didn't like how I felt afterward," he said. "But during? Yeah. I liked it." There was relief in his expression, not pride. Relief that the ugliest part had been said and the ceiling hadn't fallen. I wanted to tell him to leave. I wanted to make him stand there until he felt exactly what I had felt at the far end of my table. The second desire told me I was not as far above him as I preferred to imagine. "Why did you need to beat me?" I asked. "Because I can't impress you. I toasted your promotion. You toasted it like a mayor opening a car wash. What was I supposed to do, cry?" "I don't know. Say you're proud of me. I'm not your father. I'm aware. His answer came flat and immediate. I heard history in it, but didn't ask. Not every silence needed my tools. Grant picked up the beer again. I rebuilt the steps at our first house. You walked around them twice, then came back the next weekend and added a support underneath. One stringer was pulling away. They'd held for 6 months. They might have held 6 more. So, you didn't trust them. I didn't trust one board. That's what you always do. One board, one bracket. One thing I said at dinner. You find the weak spot and quietly correct it. You don't say I'm incompetent. You just make sure everybody sees you checking my work. I fixed it when nobody was home, Mara told me. Of course she had. You offered to help me rebuild the deck, I said. 3 times. You'd never built one. Neither had Ben. He was 22. I taught him. Grant spread one hand. Exactly. The word hit a place Judith had already loosened. You wanted me to teach you? I wanted you to let me stand on the deck without looking at the screws. That deck needed rebuilding because the last man didn't look at the screws. And there it is. I took his empty hand, turned it palm up, and looked at the faint calluses below his fingers. What are you doing? Looking. For what? I don't know. I let go. The truth was embarrassing in its simplicity. I had assumed Grant's offers were performances. He offered help the way he announced promotions, expensive knives, and the number of people reporting to him. I had heard an audition and refused to provide an audience. Maybe some of the offers had been auditions. That did not mean he hadn't wanted the part. I didn't like needing your help, I said. You never needed it. I made sure of that. He studied my face. When my marriage was ending, I said, every problem became evidence. A leaking faucet, a missed bill, a burned dinner. If I handled everything, there was less to argue about. Did it work? I'm divorced. Grant nodded slowly. I kept doing it after she was gone, I said. With Mara, with Ben. If nobody had to help me, nobody could disappoint me. That sounds lonely. It's efficient. No argument there. We moved to the little kitchen table. Grant took the chair facing the window. I sat across from him. The oak chair in the dining room remained empty. I brought out cheese, crackers, and mustard. Grant made himself a sandwich without asking whether the bread was good enough. It was not much of a dinner, but neither of us had planned for one. Why now, I asked. The shelves. You came to apologize because I recommended toggle bolts. You helped me without coming over. I didn't know that was your dream. It wasn't. He spread mustard to the edges of the bread. Mara said you were trying to make us fail. Then, when the shelves went up, she said you'd probably find something wrong with them. I said they looked good. I told her that. What did she say? That you were being cold. I ate a cracker. Grant put down the knife. There's no answer she can hear right now. She thinks I abandoned her. She thinks everybody abandons her when they stop doing what she needs. That's not fair. No, it's not completely wrong either. I looked at him. He leaned back. Whenever I complained that every holiday happened here, she said you didn't care. When I wanted us to host, she said it would hurt you. When I said Ben acted like I was an idiot, she told me Ben was insecure and you'd smooth it over. She makes promises for all 3 of you, then gets angry when we don't behave the way she promised. You're blaming her for what you did. No, I'm telling you what we do. The difference mattered. She told you the chair didn't matter, I said. She said it was just your habit, and you knew better. Yes, you could have moved. Yes, you could have apologized that night. Yes. But she could have asked you to. Grant looked at me for a long moment. That's the trap, Tom. I knew he was right before he explained it. If I only do the decent thing after my wife manages me into it, he said, then I'm exactly who you think I am. He wiped crumbs from the table into his palm. I'll call Ben, he said. Don't call him because I told you to. I just gave that speech. Then why announce it? Because I'm nervous. That surprised a laugh out of me. Grant smiled. There. That's the first time you've laughed at something I said that wasn't an accident. I've laughed at you plenty. That I believe. When he stood to leave, he carried his plate to the sink and rinsed it. He noticed the cabinet below was closing properly and opened it twice, testing the new latch. Looks good, he said, still attached. At the front door, he put on his jacket. I really am sorry about the chair. I heard you. That isn't the same as accepting it. No. He nodded. Fair. His car had barely left when my phone rang. Mara, is Grant there? She asked. He just left. What did he tell you? You should ask him. I'm asking you. We talked about the dinner, and the shelves, Ben. The deck. The deck? He offered to help. Her breathing sharpened. Did he talk about me? Yes. What did he say? Mara, talk to your husband. You both talked about me, but now I'm not allowed to know what was said? Nobody said that. You did. You always do this. You wait until I'm not in the room, decide what everything means, and then give me the cleaned up version. That isn't what happened. So I'm the problem now. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. The line went dead, leaving me with the uncomfortable suspicion that I had taught her that answer too. The second knock came 20 minutes later. Mara did not wait for me to invite her in. She stepped past me wearing the same dark sweater I had seen in Grant's photograph from their dinner party. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot, and one side had started to fall. Where did you sit? She asked. What? When you and Grant talked, in the kitchen. Where? I pointed to the little table. She walked into the kitchen and looked at the 2 chairs, the plate in the sink, and the mustard still on the counter. So, you fed him. We had crackers. You feed everybody. I was eating too. She set her purse down. He says he apologized. He did. For the chair. Yes. And you told him you never trusted him. I told him I didn't like needing help. That isn't what he heard. What did he hear? That you've been judging him since we got married, but now you have a sad explanation for it. Mara, no, I want to get this straight. Grant comes over here alone, tells you our private conversations, and somehow you two leave feeling honest while I'm the one who has been manipulating everybody. I don't feel honest. I feel tired. You always say that when you want a conversation to end. I am 64. Sometimes I'm actually tired. She pulled out a kitchen chair but did not sit. What did he tell you about me? That you make promises for people. Her eyes flashed. Of course he said that. Is it true? I manage expectations. Whose? Everybody's. Did I ask you to manage mine? You never ask for anything. That doesn't mean you don't expect it. I leaned against the counter. What do I expect? You expect us to know when your quiet means fine and when it means injured. You expect me to understand that a roast is affection, that fixing something is an apology, that remembering Grant's beer means you accept him, even while you look at him like he's using the wrong fork. I don't care which fork he uses. You know what I mean? Yes. Do you? Because Grant has spent 7 years asking me whether you like him, and I have spent 7 years telling him you do. You could have asked me. I did. When, after our rehearsal dinner, I asked if you thought I was making a mistake. I remembered the hotel hallway, Mara barefoot and carrying her shoes. Her lipstick had worn off, and she had asked whether Grant talked too much when he was nervous. I told her everybody talked too much when they were nervous. That isn't what you asked. It is what I meant. How was I supposed to know? She laughed sharply. Exactly! The words stopped both of us. Mara sat down. For a moment, neither of us looked at the other. The wall clock ticked with unnecessary confidence. You moved my napkin, I said. I know. You knew the chair mattered. Yes. Then why are we discussing rehearsal dinners? Because you keep acting like that? One choice appeared out of nowhere. It appeared before I ate the roast I cooked. You want me to say I planned to hurt you. Did you? No. Did you know it would? She rubbed both hands over her face. I thought you would understand. Understand what? That Grant needed one night where he wasn't being evaluated by my family. I gave him the dinner. You gave him what you wanted to give. He asked for the roast. I asked for the roast. That improves things. I was trying to do something nice for my husband, so was I. And then you told him to move in front of everybody. He wasn't seated yet. Oh my God, Dad. The distinction mattered to you when you used it. What was I supposed to do? Say, sorry, honey, you misunderstood. My father's symbolic furniture is more important than your promotion. You could have said, that's Dad's seat. He knew that. So did you. She stood again, chair legs scraping the floor. Yes, she said. I knew. I knew you would hate it, and I knew you would sit somewhere else anyway. Is that what you wanted? I had wanted the truth. It arrived without making me feel better. Why did it have to be me? I asked. Because he's my husband. I'm your father. That isn't an answer. It's the same answer you gave. No, it isn't. I live with him. I go home with him. If he feels humiliated, I spend the night dealing with it. So you gave him something of mine. It was a chair for one dinner. Then why would moving embarrass him? She opened her mouth, stopped, and looked away. There it was again. The value of the chair changed depending on whose feelings she was discussing. I said, "You didn't prevent a conflict. You moved it onto me because you can handle it. Apparently not. You could have. That's what makes me so angry. You could have let one bad moment pass, talked to me privately afterward, and none of this would have happened. None of what? Ben walking out. Jude treating me like I poisoned her salad. Sunday dinner disappearing. Grant coming here to discuss our marriage with you. Those things didn't come from one chair. Then stop using the chair. I'm not. You mention the napkin every time we talk. Because you moved it." She turned toward the dining room. From where she stood, she could see the oak chair at the head of the table. Her sanding marks were hidden on the far arm, but her gaze settled there, as if she could still find them. When Mom left, she said, "You told me nothing was going to change. I told you we were still a family. You kept dinner at the same time. You kept her place set for 3 weeks. I didn't know whether she was coming back. Neither did I." Her voice had softened, and that made the words harder to meet. "You cooked all these huge meals," she said. "You fixed things that weren't broken. If I asked whether you were okay, you said you were fine. If I asked whether she was coming home, you said we'd see. You made calm feel like something I had to earn by not upsetting you. I never wanted you to take care of me. You didn't let me know enough to decide." I pulled out the chair across from her. "I thought I was protecting you. I know. I didn't want you choosing between us. You think not speaking means you didn't make me choose?" I sat. Mara's eyes shone, but she did not cry. "I watched every room," she said. "I knew when Mom was angry before you did. I knew when Ben was going to leave dinner. I know when Grant feels like you're dismissing him. And I know when you say you're tired, it means I've gone too far. I was trying not to put my feelings on you. You still had feelings, Dad. They were just unlabeled." That sounded like something I might say about an electrical panel. I looked at the salad bowl on the stove. "You shouldn't have had to guess," I said. "No. But guessing doesn't give you the right to decide for me. I know." It came out quickly, impatiently, as if acknowledgement should end the subject. "Do you?" She pushed the loose hair behind her ear. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to stop telling me what I can absorb." "Fine. And I want you to stop changing the rules without telling anybody." "What rules?" "That you'll show up. That you'll help. That if dinner goes badly, you won't make it the last dinner." I offered to help with the shelves 3 other days. This is not about shelves. It was when you called. You know what I mean. I did. She wanted the version of me who could be relied upon without negotiation. I wanted to remain that man and also be asked. Neither of us knew how to make those desires fit in the same room. "Grant says you think everybody abandons you when they stop doing what you need," I said. Her face went still. I regretted it immediately. "He said that?" "He said something close to it." "No." "Did he use that word?" "Mara. Abandons?" "Yes." She grabbed her purse. "You wanted to know what we discussed. Thank you. Now I know it wasn't an accusation. Everything sounds gentle when you say it." She walked toward the front door. I followed. "You came here to talk. I came here because my husband returned from your house sounding relieved. Do you understand that? He told you the truth, and you listened. I've been trying to get him to do that for years. That isn't my fault. I didn't say it was. You implied it. Now you know what that feels like." She pulled the door open. "What happens now?" I asked. "I need space. We've had space." "No, we've had a standoff. I need you not to call me for a while. I haven't been calling." "Good. Keep doing that." The door closed. I watched through the front window as she drove away. Her brake lights paused at the stop sign, then turned right. Grant called 10 minutes later. "Is Mara there?" She left. "Did she come over?" "Yes." He exhaled. "She didn't tell me where she was going. You should talk to her." I tried. "Try when she gets home." He hesitated. "What did you say?" The question would have been funny if it had not exhausted me. "I'm not doing this, Grant." "Doing what?" "Translating." I hung up before he could answer. The next several days were quiet in a way that felt supervised. Mara did not call. She sent one text asking whether I still had the folding table she had used for an arts center fundraiser. I said it was in the garage. She replied that Grant would pick it up Saturday. Grant arrived while I was at the repair workshop. He opened the garage with the keypad code, took the table, and sent a message saying he had locked up. "Thank you," I wrote. No other words passed between us. At breakfast Friday, Ben told me Grant had called him. How'd that go? I asked. Ben poured syrup over his pancakes. He apologized. For what? For talking about my work like he was reviewing a disappointing employee. That sounds specific. It was. Did you accept? Ben looked up. That's between me and Grant. The answer stung. Then I recognized it. All right, I said. He cut into his pancakes. I told him I was sorry for the growth opportunity line. That was funny. It was. He can still be hurt by funny. You apologize for leaving? No. I nodded. Ben glanced at me. You're getting better at this. At breakfast? At not adding a second paragraph. We ate in companionable quiet. At the workshop, Noreen became annoyed because I kept checking my phone. Expecting a transplant? She asked. My daughter asked me not to call. That doesn't usually require staring at your phone. She might call me. And looking at it will help? No. She handed me a screwdriver. Then, hold something useful. We repaired a lamp together. I let her trace the bad connection. She found it before I did and celebrated without modesty. When I got home, an envelope rested inside the storm door. My house key was taped to a folded note. Grant returned the table. I don't need this anymore. I'll contact you when I'm ready. Mara had signed only her first initial. I removed the key from the tape and placed it in the kitchen drawer where I kept spares. For 20 years, she had been able to enter my house whenever she wanted. The next morning, a message arrived from her in the old family group. Grant and I are hosting Thanksgiving. Everyone is invited. Dad, I need to know before you come that there will not be another argument about chairs, seating, or who is being asked to tolerate what. Judith responded with nothing. Ben responded with nothing. I read the message until the screen went dark in my hand. I typed 3 different answers and erased all of them. The first was too defensive. The second sounded like a lawyer. The third said only, "Thank you for the invitation," which seemed likely to produce another paragraph. I called Judith. "I am not composing your response," she said before I finished explaining. "I didn't ask you to. You were circling it. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?" "Going to Mara's." The answer caught me. "You are?" "She invited me." "She invited all of us." "Yes. That's generally how group messages work." I walked into the dining room and put my free hand on the back of the oak chair. "Did you read the part addressed to me?" "I did, and it was rude." "Thank you." "You sound too happy about that." "I'm not happy." "You sound vindicated." "She invited me on the condition that I don't object to anything. She invited you on the condition that you don't reopen the chair argument over turkey. That is not what she wrote. I know what she wrote. I also know what she meant. She's counting on that." Judith sighed. "Tom, I can think Mara is wrong and still eat her stuffing. I didn't say you couldn't. You got quiet. I'm thinking. You weaponize thinking." I called for advice. "No, you called to find out whether I was on your side." The dining room window reflected me standing behind the chair. From that angle, it looked as if I were waiting to pull it out for someone. "Go to Mara's," I said. "I plan to. I hope you have a good time. Don't get noble. It makes me itch." She softened before hanging up. "You don't have to answer tonight," she said. "Anger keeps well in the refrigerator." I waited an hour. Then I wrote in the group message, "Thank you for inviting me. I won't be coming, but I hope you have a good Thanksgiving." Ben called immediately. "You sent that like a man resigning from the post office." What should I have said? I'm not criticizing. I'm impressed you didn't include effective immediately. "Are you going?" "No, why not?" "I already agreed to work a hotel event that morning. I'll be done around 4, but I'm not interested in having my mashed potatoes evaluated." Grant apologized. "I know. Then don't stay away because of me. I'm staying away because of me. That's what everybody says right before they form a coalition." "Dad." "What?" "I spent 5 years avoiding dinner. You never called that a coalition." "No, I called it your schedule." "Exactly." I sat at the kitchen table. "Do you have somewhere to eat?" "My friend Luis is doing an open house. I'll stop there." "Good." I'll figure it out." "Come with me." "No." "Why?" "Because you invited me after I asked whether you had somewhere to go. That's how invitations happen. You should go without worrying about me. I can do 2 things. "I know. Are you sure?" "Yes." He didn't believe me, but he let the answer stand. Mara's private message arrived after we hung up. "You could have told me directly instead of announcing it to everyone." I replied, "You invited me in front of everyone. That was defensive, but accurate. I was trying to keep the holiday from becoming another confrontation. So was I, by refusing to come. Yes. 3 dots appeared and disappeared for nearly a minute. Enjoy the repair workshop. I put the phone face down. Grant called 2 days later while I was raking leaves. I watched his name flash until the call went to voicemail. Then he called again. I answered. Mara doesn't know I'm calling, he said. You should stop opening conversations that way. Probably. I leaned the rake against the fence. What do you need? For you to come Thanksgiving. I already answered. You answered her. She issued the invitation. She issued a challenge wearing an invitation as a hat. That's an image. I've been thinking about it. I can tell. Grant lowered his voice. My parents are coming. Judith's coming. Mara ordered a turkey that could feed a softball team. She made place cards. Then there shouldn't be confusion about seating, he groaned. Don't. You called me. I'm asking you not to make the phrasing more important than the day. The phrasing tells me what day she's planning. She's afraid. Of what? That you'll come, something will happen, and you'll leave. I might. I know. His agreement took some of the argument out of me. Grant continued. She thinks if she controls everything in advance, nobody can surprise her. You sound familiar with the approach. I married it. Careful, I know. I dragged the rake through a wet patch of leaves. Half of them stuck to the grass. She returned her key, I said. I didn't know that. She asked me not to call. Then she invited me with conditions. She wants you to prove you'll come anyway. That is not an adult invitation. No. Then why are you helping? Because I want Thanksgiving. I looked over the fence at the neighbor's bare maple. That's honest, I said. I'm trying. I'm not coming. Grant was quiet. Okay, he said at last. No argument? I argued. You still said no. I offered Tuesday. What? Nothing. He almost laughed. Before he hung up, he said, For what it's worth, I told her the message was a bad idea. What did she say? That I was defending you. Were you? I was defending the possibility that you might read exactly what she wrote. After the call, I finished raking. The yard looked worse than when I started. Wet leaves had broken into pieces and spread across the lawn like confetti after a disappointing parade. At the Thursday workshop, Cal announced that the community center was hosting Thanksgiving for volunteers, library staff, and anybody else who did not want to explain themselves to relatives. You bring anything? He asked me. I haven't agreed to come. Green beans. I said I haven't agreed. You make good green beans? Yes. Then green beans. Noreen was sorting donated tools into plastic bins. I'm bringing pie, she said. I thought you didn't know how to bake. I'm bringing a pie. The verb allows purchasing. I may have plans. She looked up. Do you? No. Then now you do. The invitation should have comforted me. Instead, it made my throat tighten. I turned away and picked up a broken lamp cord. People believe lonely is the same as alone. It isn't. Alone is a condition. Lonely is a comparison. I could sit among 20 people at the community center and still know exactly where Judith was, where Ben was, and which chair Mara had assigned to the father who had declined to attend. Green beans, Cal repeated. All right. Thanksgiving morning, I woke at 5:40 out of habit. For years, that was when I started the turkey. Even when we ate at someone else's house, I made stock, dressing, or rolls before daylight. The kitchen had always been warm by sunrise. That morning, it was dark and cold. I made coffee and turned on the small radio by the sink. A man gave traffic updates to empty roads. I trimmed 3 pounds of green beans, blanched them, toasted almonds, and made a lemon butter sauce. At 9, Judith called. I'm not asking you to reconsider, she said. Good. I'm checking whether you're alive. I'm making green beans. For strangers? For a community dinner. They're not getting the good green beans, are they? There are different levels? You know there are. I smiled. She said, Mara has set a place for you. Grant said she made place cards. Yours is there. Why? Because she wants you to come. She has my number. She asked you not to call. That prevents her from calling me? No. We sat in silence. Finally, Judith said, I'm going because I love her. I love you too. I know. I'm not endorsing the message. I know. And if Grant's mother brings that sweet potato thing with marshmallows, I may leave anyway. Take a coat. The community center smelled of roasted meat, coffee, and industrial floor cleaner. Cal wore a paper chef's hat somebody had written electrical on. Noreen's purchased pie leaned to one side in its box. There were 26 of us. Pete brought the table saw switch to show Cal, then wisely left the saw at home. The library director carved the turkey. A retired nurse made gravy with enough pepper to qualify as a respiratory event. Nobody asked why I wasn't with my family until Noreen sat beside me. "You keep looking at the door," she said. "I know. Expecting someone? No. That's worse." I ate green beans that were, according to Judith's classification, the good ones. My phone remained silent through dinner. Cal told a story about cutting power to the wrong wing of a hospital in 1987. Pete argued that his table saw's original switch had probably been adequate. Noreen took one bite of her store-bought pie and accused the bakery of fraud. I laughed. I enjoyed myself. At 4:30, I went to the restroom and checked my phone in a stall like a man conducting illegal business. No messages. When I returned to the table, Noreen had covered my plate with foil. "You're leaving," she said. "I didn't say that." "You put on your coat." "I had not noticed doing it. Thank you for inviting me." "You're welcome." She didn't ask where I was going. I drove past Mara's street. I told myself I had taken the wrong turn. Then I told myself I was only checking whether Judith was still there. Then I stopped lying and slowed near the corner. Cars lined both sides of Mara's driveway. Through the front window, I saw movement around the dining table. Grant stood at the head, carving. Judith was talking with one hand raised. Mara moved behind the chairs, collecting plates. My place was too far inside the room to see. I kept driving. At home, I put leftovers in the refrigerator and sat at the oak table. I chose the chair at the side, not the head. That felt less dramatic, which was itself a kind of drama. At 6:12, Judith sent a photograph of Grant holding a turkey leg while his father laughed. Mara was in the background, smiling at someone outside the frame. A second message followed. "We missed you." I typed, "I missed you too." Mara did not contact me. The next workshop was 3 days later. I arrived early, unlocked the storage cabinets with Cal, and spent an hour teaching Pete how to replace the correct switch on his saw. He did every step himself. When the saw finally started, Pete grinned at the spinning blade. "You fixed it," he said. "You did." "Yeah, but you knew how." That isn't the same thing. Across the room, Noreen watched me. After Pete left, she said, "You should try that sentence at home. They asked me not to call. Your daughter asked you not to call until she was ready." "Yes." "So, send one message that doesn't require anything. That is still contacting her. Then don't." She returned a wrench to the wrong drawer. I moved it, then moved it back. "What would you say?" I asked. "I wouldn't. She's not my daughter." I thought about it all evening. The next morning I called Mara. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. "It's Dad. You don't have to call back. I'm not asking you to be ready before you are. I only want you to know I love you, and I don't want silence to be the thing I'm using against you. That's all." I hung up before I could add a second paragraph. 4 days passed. On Sunday afternoon, the phone rang. Mara's name appeared on the screen. When I answered, she said, "Can I come over?" "Yes." "What?" "Yes, you can come over." "Oh, okay." She sounded surprised by the simplicity of the answer. "Do you want coffee?" I asked. "I don't know. I can wait until you get here." "Dad." "What?" "I'm coming to talk." I understood. No fixing lunch, no making a roast. I wasn't going to make a roast. You make food when you're nervous. I eat food when I'm nervous. It's an important distinction. She was quiet. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said. I spent those 20 minutes not making coffee. I wiped the counter twice, moved Judith's salad bowl back into the cabinet, and looked at the oak table as though it might advise me where to sit. Finally, I left every chair where it was. Mara knocked. That should not have mattered. People knocked on my door all the time, but Mara had never knocked unless she knew I had company. She used to open the door while calling my name, then complain if I had locked it. I let her in. She carried a brown paper bag against her chest. "I brought you turkey," she said. "You told me not to make food. This is already food. How old is it?" 4 days. That's at the edge. Jude ate some yesterday. Judith ate potato salad from a gas station in Alabama. Do you want it or not? I want it. I took the bag. Inside were 2 containers, one with turkey and one with stuffing. No gravy. Grant's mother took all the gravy, Mara said. She made it. She brought a jar. Then she planned well. Mara removed her coat and draped it over the chair by the door. She looked toward the kitchen, then the dining room. "Where do you want to sit?" she asked. The question was careful enough to hurt. "Kitchen's warmer." We sat at the little table. I waited for her to choose first. She took the chair facing the window, the one Grant had used. I sat across from her. "You didn't make coffee," she said. "You told me not to." "I didn't tell you not to make coffee. You said no fixing." "Coffee isn't fixing. It can be." She rubbed her palms together. "Could we have some?" I made one pot. While it brewed, neither of us spoke. The machine hissed, clicked, and released a smell that briefly made the room ordinary. I brought 2 empty mugs to the table. "Milk?" I asked. She looked at me. "What?" "You know how I drink coffee. I'm asking." "Milk. No sugar." I set the milk between us instead of pouring it for her. She added too much, watched the coffee turn pale, and drank it anyway. "I heard your voicemail 6 times, she said. "Why?" "I kept waiting for the part where you asked me to call. I said you didn't have to." "I know. That's why I listened again." I held my mug with both hands. I didn't want silence to become another way of making you do something. It already had. "I know." "No, I mean both of us." I returned the key because I wanted you to react. I reacted. You didn't say anything. You asked for space. I wanted you to say, returning the key was ridiculous. It was your key. You see how impossible you are? Yes. A smile touched one corner of her mouth and disappeared. She looked past me toward the counter. "Jude said you drove by on Thanksgiving." I frowned. How would she know? "Grant's father saw your truck at the corner. I didn't stop." "I know. I was going home." "You don't live that direction?" "No." She waited, but I did not improve the explanation. "We set a place for you," she said. "I heard. I left it there all day." "Why?" "Because I thought you might come. After I said I wouldn't. You used to say no, then show up anyway. That may be part of the problem." "I know." The second acknowledgement did not sound impatient. She stared into her coffee. "Thanksgiving was fine," she said. "The turkey was dry. Grant's mother put marshmallows on sweet potatoes, so Jude spent half the meal behaving as if civilization had ended. Grant's father told the same story about buying a boat and not buying a boat 3 times. Sounds normal. It was. I'm glad I wasn't." I looked at her. She tucked her hands beneath her thighs like she used to when she was trying not to touch something. "I got what I said I wanted," she continued. "Nobody argued about seats. Nobody walked out. Everybody was polite. And I spent the whole meal watching the empty chair I had assigned you. I'm sorry." "No, don't. I'm sorry you were hurt. I made it happen. That doesn't mean I'm glad." She looked up. "That's what Grant said." "What?" "That I wrote an invitation you couldn't accept, then blamed you for not accepting it. He called it a challenge wearing an invitation as a hat." She gave a surprised laugh. "He was proud of that line. He should be. I hated him for it. Temporarily, I hope. Still under review." She removed her hands from beneath her legs and wrapped them around the mug again. "We had a terrible fight after dinner," she said. "Not loud. That would have been easier. He cleaned the whole kitchen like he was trying to erase fingerprints." "That sounds familiar." "I told him he'd chosen your side." "What did he say?" "That there shouldn't be sides. Ben said there already were." "I know. I called him." "You called Ben?" "Yesterday. I waited." She noticed. "You're not going to ask what he said?" "I'm trying not to." I apologized. "For what?" Her eyebrows rose. "I'm improving slowly." She looked down. "For asking him to tolerate things I wouldn't have asked Grant to tolerate. For changing his birthday. For telling him Grant was concerned about him when I knew Grant was being condescending. How did he take it? He said, 'Okay.' That's what he said to me. It's not a lot. It's not nothing. No." She turned the mug a quarter turn. "He told me he stopped coming to dinner because of both of us. He told me too. And you didn't tell me. It was his to tell." She started to object, then stopped. "Right," she said. "That's what he said." The coffee machine clicked as the hot plate shut itself off. Mara's eyes returned to the dining room. "I told Grant about that chair on our first anniversary," she said. "We'd had dinner here. He asked why Sunday mattered so much when everybody spent half the night irritating each other. That sounds like him. I told him about sanding it, about Mom leaving, about you saying the family could change shape without disappearing. I remember what I said. I know you do." She looked at me again. "I made him understand the chair because I wanted him to understand me. Then, the night of his promotion dinner, I acted like it meant nothing because I wanted you to understand him, without asking either of us. Yes, you thought the chair would prove he belonged. I thought if you gave him the place, he'd stop feeling like he had to compete with you. He wanted to compete. He did. I let him. She frowned. By objecting? Before that. Every time I checked his work. Every time I taught Ben something and told Grant I had it handled. Every time I answered his offer with a beer. You were nice to him. I was careful with him. That's not the same. No? Mara looked almost offended by my agreement. So, what am I supposed to do with that? She asked. You admit you made him feel like an outsider, but I'm still wrong for trying to make him feel included. You didn't include him. You replaced me. For one dinner. For one dinner, I agreed. Then you did it again at your house. That was where you always sat. Because it was convenient for clearing dishes. Her face changed. I had not said that to her before. I didn't ask you to clear dishes, she said. You didn't have to. The words landed between us without accusation. That made them clearer. Mara leaned back. I put you near the kitchen because you always help. Yes. And I put Grant at the head because he needs to feel important? She winced, visible. And where did you sit? She thought about it. Next to him. Close enough to manage both directions. Her eyes filled then. She looked angrily toward the window. I hate that word. Manage? Yes. I used it too. You make it sound like I'm controlling. Aren't you? I'm trying to keep people from leaving. I left. I noticed. I reached across the table, then stopped with my hand near hers. She saw it. After a moment, she turned her palm up and put it beneath mine. Her hand was cold. When you told me to be the bigger man, I said, what did you mean? I told you. You said you were trying to save the dinner. I was. That's what you wanted to happen. What did you mean about me? Her fingers tightened around mine. She stared at our hands. I meant you were the one who could take it. Why? Because you love me. So does Grant. That's different. How? She shook her head, but I waited. The clock ticked. A car passed outside. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and stopped. Mara pulled her hand away and pressed both palms to her eyes. Because I knew Grant would be angry, she said. I knew Ben would say something. I knew Jude would make it worse. And I knew you would sit down somewhere else and still serve dinner. Yes. Her voice broke. I meant you were the person I could hurt without consequences. I looked at her bent head. There was the whole family arrangement in one sentence. Not because she did not love me, because she trusted my love to survive whatever shape she forced it into. I'm sorry, she said. I knew it when I said it, maybe not in those words, but I knew. I waited until she lowered her hands. I helped teach you that, I said. No, yes. I made a promise when you were 16 that the family wouldn't disappear. Then I confused keeping that promise with never letting you see me leave a room. You were my father. I still am. You were supposed to be the safe one. Safe doesn't mean painless. It felt like it did. I know. She wiped her face with the cuff of her sweater. I was afraid if I needed anything, I said. You'd feel responsible for me, so I needed nothing. I thought that made you free. It made me guess. Yes. And then, when I guessed wrong, you canceled dinner. Yes. You could have told me sooner. I thought the chair told you. That is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. I laughed softly. After a second, she did too, through the last of her tears. We sat there until the coffee went cold. Nothing was repaired. She did not ask for her key back. I did not offer to restore Sunday dinner. At the door, Mara put on her coat. I don't know how to go back to normal, she said. I don't want normal. That sounds threatening. I mean, we can do something smaller. Coffee? Coffee? Next Sunday? If you want. I do. She opened the door, then looked toward the dining room one last time. Are you ever going to sit in that chair again? Yes. When? When I want to sit there. She nodded. For the first time since Grant had taken it, the chair looked like furniture again. The first coffee lasted 43 minutes. Mara brought muffins from the bakery Grant had used for the pie. I made coffee without asking permission, but I put the milk on the table and let her pour it herself. We discussed the Arts Center committee. 2 members wanted to repaint the lobby dark blue, while a third believed dark blue would discourage donations. What color encourages donations? I asked. Apparently beige. Beige encourages surrender. That's what I said. For several minutes, we were simply ourselves. Then both of us noticed. Mara brushed crumbs from the table. Grant asked if I thought you hated him. What did you say? I said I didn't know. I don't. Can I tell him? If he asks me, I'll tell him. She nodded. Fair. It was not completely fair. I knew that. Grant had spent years asking her questions I had made difficult to ask me, but I was not ready to send affection through the same delivery system that had failed everything else. Before she left, I took her house key from the kitchen drawer. I wasn't asking for that, she said. I know. I placed it on the table. What does taking it back mean? She asked. It means you have a key. That's not an answer. It opens the front door. Dad, it means if I fall in the shower, you don't have to break a window. You don't have a window in the shower. Then taking the key is even more important. She smiled, but she didn't pick it up. I don't want to go back to walking in like nothing happened, then knock. So, why have a key? Because it's yours. She looked at it for a long time. Finally, she slid it into her purse. The following Sunday, she knocked again. I heard the key turn first. The deadbolt opened, then closed, followed by 3 firm knocks. When I answered, she stood on the porch holding 2 coffees. I wasn't sure which rule mattered more, she said. That was inefficient. I'm learning from you. She had brought my coffee black, which was how I drank it. We sat in the dining room because sunlight reached that side of the house in the afternoon. Mara chose a side chair. I chose another. The oak chair stayed at the head of the table. That afternoon, she asked about the repair workshop without making it sound like evidence against her. Is Noreen the one with the dresser? She asked. Yes. Does she flirt with you? Noreen criticizes my screwdrivers. That wasn't my question. She accused me of preferring useful to simple. Mara lifted her coffee. She knows you? She barely knows me. People who barely know us sometimes have cleaner information. Is that from the arts committee? No. They only discuss beige. She told me Grant wanted to apologize again, not for the chair this time, but for the way he had treated the house as a contest. I don't need another formal statement, I said. What do you need? I looked through the window at the bird feeder leaning beside the fence. Its post had rotted near the ground. I had been planning to replace it alone. Ask if he's free Saturday morning. For what? I need an extra set of hands. Mara stared at me. It's a fence post, not a kidney. I didn't say anything. Your face moved. Grant arrived Saturday at 8, carrying a new post, 2 bags of concrete, and enough tools to open his own hardware store. I have a shovel, I said. I brought mine. I have a level. I brought mine. Did Mara tell you I was completely unprepared? She told me not to make this weird. How's that going? Poorly. We took the old bird feeder post out first. The rotten section broke below ground, leaving 18 inches of wood packed into wet soil. Grant wanted to dig around it. I wanted to drive 2 screws into the top and pull it with a pry bar. We tried his way first. After 10 minutes, the hole was wider, and the post remained exactly where it had been. You want to say it? He asked. No, you look like you want to. I'm thinking about oatmeal. You don't like oatmeal. How do you know? Ben told me. I drove the screws, placed a scrap board across the hole, and handed Grant the pry bar. Pull slowly. He leaned into it. The rotten post rose with a sucking sound and released a smell like a swamp had opened for business. Grant looked at the muddy piece of wood. You could have done that first. Yes. Why didn't you? You brought a shovel. He laughed. We set the new post together. Grant held it plumb while I added dry concrete around the base. Twice I reached for the level he was holding. Twice I stopped. It's a little left, I said. He adjusted it. Now? Good. You want to check? I can see the bubble. You're 6 feet away. I have excellent character vision. That isn't a thing. It is in management. When the post was secure, Grant attached the feeder. 1 screw went in slightly crooked. I watched him tighten it. He noticed me watching. You can redo it after I leave. I could. Will you? No. You hesitated. I was choosing honesty. We sat on the back steps drinking coffee from paper cups Grant had brought. The feeder stood straight against the fence. I called Ben, he said. I heard. He accepted part of the apology. That sounds like Ben. He said he believes I'm sorry. He doesn't believe I'll stop doing it. Will you? I'll probably do it again. I looked at him. Not deliberately, he said. I rank things. It's how my brain works. A job is stable or unstable. A plan is efficient or inefficient. A person is moving forward or falling behind. What am I? He rubbed dirt from his knuckles. Honestly, yes. Impossible to beat, because you pretend you aren't playing. That sounds like an excuse. It is. He drank his coffee. I don't want the head of your table, he said. I wanted proof I could take it. And now? Now I know I can take a chair from a man who doesn't want to ruin dinner. That isn't much of an achievement. No. The feeder rocked once in the wind, then settled. I don't hate you, I said. Grant looked at me. I've judged you, I continued, sometimes correctly. Sometimes because I decided what you meant before you finished. That sounds like judging. It is. Do you approve of me? No. His face tightened. I don't approve of people in one piece, I said. I approve of things they do. The shelves are good. Helping today was good. How you spoke to Ben was not. That's exhausting. It saves me from lying. Are you proud of me? For the promotion? For anything? I considered the question longer than he liked. I'm proud you came here and told me you enjoyed hurting me. He blinked. That's a strange thing to be proud of. It cost you something to say. It cost me less than not saying it. Then be proud of yourself, too. Grant looked toward the post. Mara says you're starting coffee on Sundays. Mara and I are having coffee. Right? The distinction landed. He nodded instead of arguing. When he left, the crooked screw remained in the feeder. I checked it the next morning. It held. Coffee with Mara became a small ritual before it became a family one. She came alone 3 Sundays in a row. Sometimes she stayed less than an hour. Once she stayed long enough to eat soup, but only after I asked whether she wanted it. We did not discuss the chair every week. We discussed Grant, Ben, her mother, my repair workshop, and the art center's eventual decision to paint the lobby a color called Harbor Fog, which was beige pretending to have traveled. Mara apologized for more than the dinner. She remembered asking me to change appointments because Grant had meetings. She remembered letting Ben's birthday move. She remembered volunteering me to build display panels for the arts center, then accepting everybody's thanks as if she had contributed my time herself. I remembered saying yes to all of it. That doesn't make it okay, she said. It makes it a pattern we both maintained. I don't want you protecting me from my part. I'm trying not to. The 4th Sunday, Ben came. He arrived with breakfast sandwiches and stood inside the front door, as though he might reverse course if either of us used the wrong tone. Mara stayed seated at the kitchen table. Hi, she said. Hi. He put the bag down. I got sausage and bacon. I didn't know what anybody wanted. Dad will stare at the bacon until you surrender. I've addressed that. Ben sat across from Mara. I took the end between them. Nobody asked me to. For 20 minutes, we discussed coffee, weather, and whether the art center's harbor fog looked gray or sick. Then Ben finished his sandwich and folded the wrapper into smaller and smaller squares. Mara said, I meant what I said on the phone. I know. I'm not asking you to trust it yet. Okay. I also owe you for the years before Grant. Ben glanced at me, then back at her. Yeah. I thought Dad could take care of himself, so I let him take care of me. Then I expected you to do the same. You were older, by 3 years. That's a lot when you're 11. Mara's eyes flicked toward me. She caught herself before asking me to settle it. Yes, she said. It probably was. Ben unfolded the wrapper, then folded it a different way. I'm not coming back to dinner if coming back means pretending, he said. It doesn't. It usually does. I know. And I'm not apologizing every time Grant asks me a rude question. You shouldn't. What if he thinks it's normal? Then I'll let him find out it isn't. Ben looked at her carefully. You won't ask Dad to explain it? No. Or Jude? No. Okay. Again, the little word. Again. Enough. After Ben left, Mara helped me clear the coffee cups. What happens now? She asked. You go home. I mean, with all of us. I don't know. Jude says she's tired of receiving separate reports from 4 adults. That sounds like Jude. She suggested dinner. Of course she did. At her house. Has she ever cleaned her oven? Not voluntarily. I dried a mug. Mara waited. Do you want dinner? I asked. Yes. Here? She looked toward the dining room. Eventually. That wasn't my question. Yes. Here. With Grant? Yes. Ben? If he wants. Judith? She will arrive whether invited or not. I set the mug in the cabinet. Not next Sunday, I said. I'm at the workshop until 5. Mara nodded. The week after? I can do that. What should I bring? The question was so ordinary I almost answered automatically. Salad? Without pears? Talk to Judith. What about Grant? Tell him to bring bread. Ben, he can choose. And you'll cook? Yes. Because you want to? Yes. She smiled. Okay. The group message returned cautiously. Mara wrote, Dad is hosting dinner in 2 weeks, 6 o'clock. This is an invitation, not a command. Judith replied, Define dinner. Ben replied, Food after 5. Grant wrote, I have been assigned bread. I added, Nobody has been assigned anything. Mara volunteered you. Grant answered, I accept the assignment voluntarily. Judith sent a photograph of a pear. On the afternoon of the dinner, I made pot roast, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Not the good Thanksgiving beans. Ordinary ones with butter and salt. I set 5 places. My blue napkin went beside the oak chair. The carving knife stayed in the kitchen because the roast did not need carving at the table. At 5:58, the doorbell rang. I stood alone in the dining room for 1 more second, looking at the chairs exactly where I had chosen to put them. Then I went to let my family in. Mara stood on the porch holding a wooden salad bowl. Grant was behind her with a paper bag tucked under one arm and 2 bottles of wine in his hands. We're early, she said. I looked at the clock in the front hall. By 2 minutes, I told him to drive slower. There was a yellow light, Grant said. I made a judgment. Come in. Mara kissed my cheek. Grant handed me the wine, then offered the paper bag. Bread, he said, voluntarily. Thank you. I went to 2 bakeries. Why? The first place only had sourdough. Sourdough is bread. That's what I said, Mara told him. Grant removed his coat. It didn't fit the meal. You've never seen the meal. It's pot roast. How did you know? Mara said your house smelled like pot roast from the sidewalk. I took the bag into the kitchen. Grant followed with the wine, while Mara carried her salad to the dining room. Where do you want these? He asked. One on the counter, put the other in the rack. He did both without commenting on how I organized the rack. I considered that progress. Mara returned carrying an empty glass. I need water. You know where it is? I said. She opened the cabinet, took down the pitcher, and filled it at the sink. Grant watched her. What? She asked. Nothing? You made a face. I have a face. You married into that joke, I said. Use it responsibly. The doorbell rang again. Ben stood outside holding a pie box and his metal rivet gun. I brought dessert and a tool, he said. One of these is staying. Which? Depends how dinner goes. He stepped inside, saw Grant, and nodded. Hey. Hey, Grant said. They shook hands. It was too formal for family and too sincere to mock. Thanks for calling me, Ben said. Thanks for answering. Neither one added anything. Judith arrived without ringing, using the key I had given her after she once waited 40 minutes on my porch because I was in the garage with a sander running. I brought wine, she announced. We have wine, Mara said. Then I have brought reserves. Judith handed me a bottle and looked past me into the dining room. Where am I sitting? Wherever you want. That seems reckless. Not Dad's chair, Mara said. The room changed. It was slight, no more than a missed step on level ground. Mara looked at me immediately. I know what you meant. Grant put his hands in his pockets. Ben became interested in the pie box. Judith looked pleased with herself for not being the person who had said it. Dinner's ready, I said. We carried everything to the table. The pot roast sat in a deep white serving dish surrounded by carrots and onions. I had already sliced it in the kitchen. Mashed potatoes went beside it, green beans beside those. Mara placed her salad near Judith, who inspected it. No pears, she said. I showed restraint. Growth is painful. Grant set the bread basket in the middle. Ben opened the wine. Nobody asked me to carve anything. Then we reached the chairs. Grant was nearest the oak one. His hand moved toward its back, not to pull it out but to steady himself, as he stepped around the corner of the table. Before touching it, he stopped. His eyes met mine. He moved past it and took the chair on the left side, halfway down. No apology, no joke, no performance. I pulled out the oak chair and sat. The familiar creak came from the left rear joint. I felt the sanding grooves beneath my fingers and the slight dip in the seat worn over years. Mara stood behind the chair to my right. That had usually been Grant's place in my house. He looked at her. She looked at the empty chair beside me, then at him. Are you okay there? She asked. I'm fine. It wasn't martyrdom. He reached for the bread and began arranging slices in the basket. Mara sat beside me. Ben chose the chair across from Grant. Judith took the far end near the kitchen doorway and immediately complained that she had been placed in service. "You chose it," I said. "That doesn't make it less oppressive." I raised my wine glass. Everybody else reached for theirs. I had considered a toast. I had thought of 3 while making the potatoes. One was about family changing shape. Another was about starting again. The third was shorter, but sounded like something embroidered on a pillow. "To food after 5, I said. Ben smiled. "That's dinner." We drank. For the first few minutes, the serving dishes did most of the talking. Grant passed bread. Mara served salad. Ben took too many potatoes, noticed Judith watching, and took another spoonful. The roast was tender. Nobody needed to tell me. It separated beneath the side of a fork. "This is good," Grant said. "Thank you." "Better than mine," Mara said. "You've never made pot roast. Then definitely better." Judith tasted the salad. "This needs pears." "Eat a roll," Mara told her. There was humor in it, but no plea. Conversation moved cautiously around the table. Ben described an awards show where the presenter had thanked the wrong company. Mara gave us an update on Harbor Fog. The lobby had been painted, and 3 donors claimed to love the color, despite each describing it differently. "Blue," Mara said. "Gray." One woman called it coastal taupe. "Taupe has a coast?" Grant asked. "It inherited property." Judith pointed her fork at him. That was funny. I've been funny before. Not in this house. Grant looked at me. "You hear what I deal with?" I've been dealing with her longer. The laugh that followed was not careful. I felt myself relax and distrusted it for half a second. Then I let it happen. Grant asked Ben about a sound job he had mentioned in the family message. "How was the hotel conference?" "Fine." "Long?" "Same pharmaceutical group?" "No." "Medical equipment?" "Did it pay?" Grant stopped. Ben waited. Grant tore a roll in half. "Was it a good job?" A smile pulled at Ben's mouth. "It paid well." I wasn't going to ask that. You were, I was. The job was fine. The client changed the room layout after we ran cables, then acted surprised that cables remain physical objects. "That happens in logistics too," Grant said. "People move a deadline and expect distance to adjust." Ben nodded. "Exactly. What do you do when they change the room?" "Tell them what it costs." "And if they won't pay?" "They keep the old layout." Grant leaned forward. "You can do that?" "I'm not an employee." There was no boast in it, but I saw Grant reconsider something. "That must be nice," he said. "It can also mean they hire somebody else next time. So, you have to know when to push." "Pretty much." Grant took a bite of bread. "That sounds more like management than I thought." Ben's shoulders stiffened. I felt the old reflex rise in me. Turned to Judith. "Ask about church." Move the conversation before the words found sharp edges. I reached for my potatoes instead. Ben said, "It's been management the whole time. I know that now." "You learned it over one phone call." "No, I learned I didn't know enough to have the opinion I kept giving you." The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Nobody died from it. Mara's hand moved toward her water glass. She looked at Grant, then at Ben. But she did not explain either man to the other. Ben finally said, "All right." Grant nodded. Judith passed him the green beans. "Personal growth requires fiber." "That's not why," she told me later when I thanked her for changing the subject. "I wanted the beans." During the meal, I got up twice. Once for butter. Once because Judith dropped her napkin and claimed the table prevented her from reaching it. The third time I started to rise, Mara touched my wrist. "What do you need?" she asked. "More water." She looked at the pitcher near her hand. "I can get it, I know. Do you want me to?" The question was small and awkward and exactly right. "Yes." She filled my glass. Grant noticed but said nothing. Halfway through the roast, he told us about the Dayton supervisor who had resigned. The man's replacement had asked to adjust several schedules because drivers were leaving for competitors. "What did you say?" Ben asked. "I said the schedules existed for a reason. That sounds like you." Then she showed me 3 months of exit interviews. And apparently people enjoy seeing their families. Judith put a hand to her chest. Radical. Grant smiled, but his expression had tightened. "I changed 2 routes," he said. "We'll see if it helps." "That must have been difficult," Mara said. "I like evidence." "You like being right," she said. "So does your father." Everybody looked at me. "True," I said. Grant leaned back. The supervisor who quit told me I used clarity like a threat. The sentence was too honest for casual dinner. Ben lowered his fork. Mara turned toward her husband. "Did you?" she asked. "Probably." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." She waited. He glanced at me, perhaps expecting instruction. I cut another piece of roast. "You're not going to say anything?" he asked. "I don't manage logistics. You manage schools, buildings. Boilers don't have families." "Some boilers are very close," Judith said. Grant laughed, then shook his head. "I thought you'd have advice. I probably do. But you didn't ask." He considered that. "I'm asking." I wiped my mouth. "Talk to the people doing the routes before you fix the routes. That's it? That's the beginning." He nodded. Mara squeezed lemon over her salad. She did not thank me for helping him. She did not thank him for asking. The exchange belonged to the two people who had made it. That felt new. Dessert nearly created the evening's first disaster. Ben had bought a chocolate cream pie. Judith cut it before it had warmed enough, and the first slice collapsed into a dark pile on the server. "It tastes the same," she said. "It doesn't look the same," Mara replied. "It's pie, not architecture." Grant examined the ruined slice. "Give me that one." "You don't like chocolate cream," Mara said. "I like structurally compromised food. You said my potatoes were heavy. That was a long time ago. It was 6 weeks. I've changed." Ben slid the plate toward him. Personal growth pie. Grant ate every bite. When dinner ended, all 5 of us stood at once. For years, that had been my signal to start moving. Stack plates, wrap leftovers, soak the pan, load the dishwasher, and the arrangement nobody else understood. I picked up my glass and sat back down. Everyone remained standing. "I'm finishing my wine," I said. "Good," Mara answered. She carried 2 plates into the kitchen. Grant took the serving dishes. Ben brought the remaining glasses. Judith picked up the breadbasket, removed the last roll, and put it in her purse. "I saw that," I said. "You were sitting. Your authority was limited." From the dining room, I listened to them negotiate my kitchen. "Where do the containers live?" Mara asked. "Cabinet left of the sink," Ben said. "How do you know?" "I've been here. This lid doesn't fit." "That's because you're holding it backward," Grant said. "It's round. The tab goes on the other side. Still round." The dishwasher opened. Plates knocked together. Water ran. Nobody called for me. I drank my wine slowly. The oak chair creaked when I shifted my weight. Grant heard it from the kitchen and leaned through the doorway. "Loose joint?" "Yes." "You tighten the screw?" "First night." "Might need glue." "Probably." He waited. "You want help?" he asked. "Not tonight." "Okay." There was no offense in his answer. He returned to the dishes. Mara came back carrying the coffee pot. "Do you want coffee?" "Yes." "Milk?" "No, I know. I'm asking." She poured it black. Instead of returning to the kitchen, she sat beside me again. For a moment, we watched Ben explain the dishwasher racks to Grant as if he had designed them. Judith dried 1 plate, declared the towel inadequate, and abandoned her position. "This isn't going to happen every Sunday," I told Mara. She glanced at me. "Dinner here? I have the workshop." "Ben works." "You and Grant should host when you want," Jude offered. "She owns 1 pan, she can buy another, and everybody brings something." "Yes, I'm not cooking a roast every time. I didn't ask you to." "I know." Her shoulder rested lightly against mine. "I kept expecting you to get up," she said. "So did I. Was it hard not to?" "Yes." "Did you enjoy watching us struggle with the containers?" "A little." Grant put mashed potatoes in the pie carrier. "That's not illegal. It should be." We sat without speaking. The coffee tasted slightly burned from sitting on the warmer. I drank it anyway. At the front door, Ben took his rivet gun, but left half the pie. "I have an early load-in," he said. "Don't schedule breakfast Friday. I won't. You can ask." "Do you want breakfast Friday?" "No. Then I won't." He hugged me. After a brief hesitation, he hugged Mara too. Neither turned it into a ceremony. Judith left with 2 rolls, 1 container of roast, and the wine she had brought. "I'm hosting next month," she announced. "You don't cook," Mara said. "I will cater." "That isn't hosting. It happens in my house. I define the verb." Grant carried the empty bread bag to the recycling bin. Before putting on his coat, he stopped beside the oak chair. He ran 1 finger over the back, but did not move it. Saturday, he asked. For what? The joint. I looked at the chair, then at him. 10 o'clock, I'll bring clamps. I have clamps, I know. He smiled and followed Judith outside. Mara was last. She stood in the doorway with her coat buttoned and her key ring in one hand. My house key was already among the others. Do you want help putting the table back? She asked. The chairs had shifted during dinner. Hers was angled toward mine. Grant sat farther from the table than the others. The oak chair remained at the head. No, I said. Leave it. She kissed my cheek. Good night, Dad. Good night. After her car disappeared, I went back to the dining room. 5 used napkins remained in a loose pile. There was a ring from Judith's wine glass, crumbs beneath Grant's chair, and a streak of chocolate near Ben's plate. Mara's chair was still close enough that the arms nearly touched mine. I sat down in the oak chair. It creaked. For once I did not reach for a screwdriver.